Hi, I'm Scott Franklin Ree, and I am champion of love. This is Extreme Narcissism TV, and I'm also the man without a pop culture. And part of the reason I'm the man without a pop culture is because I pulled away from it. Because I'm no different than you. Every time I see a new anything these days, it kind of seems like I'm being hammered over the head with the same messages, which is a role reversal of things between men and women. But it's not just a role reversal. It's like, here's what a woman used to be and here's what she is now. And here's where this episode's topic comes up. Jezebel. Yeah, we're going to talk about Jezebel. Historically, I'm going to use this pamphlet. It's kind of feel like it's indispensable this episode because there's so much about the history of Jezebel historically in here that I'm going to use this book. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a religious background. We're just going to talk about the wife of King Ahab, who was Jezebel, and she got, I think it was like 10 million Hebrews to turn away from the old covenant with God, destroy sacred altars, kill prophets. And this is like all like guys that were heralding that Jesus would come and stuff like that. Killed. Jezebel was blocking, the progress of the establishment of his holy apostolic church. This is what the Bible stuff is. So Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab, and she got a lot of women to lead lives of sexual immorality, and men as well. I turned so many people away from, the covenant, their covenant, the Hebrews covenant. And boy, she did not end well. Long story short, she got thrown out of a window, and then when she was laying down there, horses trampled her. And then they said, back up the horses and trample her again to make sure that it was done the way that they wanted it done. Like she's not going to make it. Like they wanted to make sure she was done like that. So that's the end of Jezebel. And it kind of is a tragic end to a lot of, I'm going to use Jezebel as a catch-all for this episode, because it's like the perfect catch-all. That's why I said that. So Jezebel, it's like the spirit of our time. The Jezebel spirit, it kind of really does. Like, look at what's happened to the West. All right, we have all the media, we make a lot of stuff over there. I know the world makes media now, but a lot of it's come from the West, how people are supposed to behave. And the Jezebel spirit is in so many things. It's in Scott Pilgrim. It's in every single female character in Dirk Gently's season 2 that I got for $1. Without all of them are some form of this weird self-possessed, self-absorbed Jezebel. But let's go to a book that fell into my lap. Do you ever have books fall into your lap? You're like, this is totally something cool, right for me. You never knew it existed. I wasn't thinking of Jezebel Spirit. I heard of such things. There's a blog called Jezebel, which is appropriate to this. All the things that Jezebel thinks are great. Well, according to biblically a guy that teaches in church, he explains why it's destructive to basically nations and the fates of nations, and leads to cultural collapse and all the different kinds of manias that come with cultural collapse when we historically look at the falls of empires or kingdoms and the like. It's collapse of the family, sexual immorality, transgender mania, things like this. So today's episode, Jezebel Spirit. What's wrong with all your darling Clementine Krasinskis? What's wrong with all your alley cat girls? Oh, they're cool. I'm going to keep this girl, but I can't because she has claws and she shits all over everything. She just makes a mess. And I just want her to leave and not come back. And then they don't. That's you're like, oh, here's that was that cat, that alley cat girls. Why? Well, it's kind of let's look at it like this. Let's be cold about it. There's Jezebel, the wife of King Ahab. She figures out, this is historically now, she figures out, or you could say she's possessed by, this guy's going to say, and I'm not disagreeing with him, I'm not against it, I agree, but I'm going to say, so that you listen to me, let's take biblical stuff out of this. But he thinks Jezebel's spirit is like demons, because there's demons and spirits in the Bible. This is cool stuff if you're interested in Blumhouse movies and things. Okay, so this is where all your Blumhouse movies come from. Historical demons being cast out of people. The apostles of Jesus were always casting out demons all the time. So sometimes they cast out demons, several demons. Mary Magdalene had several demons cast out of her. Okay? Another guy had a legion of demons. That's like thousands of demons inside of one guy, and he was mad, and he was like crazy, wandering around cemeteries. He lived in a cemetery, in a cave or something, or in a tomb or whatever, a broken tomb. And then all the demons were cast out of him by the guys who had power and authority granted them. So there's also spirits. Paul and Silas got beaten with rods, I've talked about it before, for casting out a helpful spirit out of a servant girl that was owned by a wealthy family. The wealthy family took Paul and Silas, apostles of Jesus, to court because they cast a spirit out of their servant girl, and that spirit was helpful to the family with money. So now that the spirit was gone from their servant, they lost their source of income. So biblically, and taken to court publicly, where like if you cast a spirit out of somebody and they didn't want it cast out of them, you could get beaten for rods for casting out a spirit if people wanted it in their servant because it made them money. So there's all kinds of stuff about like don't do fortune telling, don't do magic. It's all in the Bible. So from this perspective, which again I'm going to say that I agree with, but I can also separate and dissociate from it enough to come at you from like because science perspective or social engineering through political manipulation. Jezebel figured out how to manipulate men and women to break up families, ultimately, is what it always comes down to, so that people are more easy to control. But then you can control them as isolated units, but they didn't have it figured out back then. They didn't have the technology of like a little phone in your hand and all that stuff like they have today, and like people growing up for like since the 1950s with televisions and stuff like, or since the 1960s at least, with televisions and everything. Not everybody had them in the 50s. But anyway, I want to talk about Jezebel Spirit. So enough of the aside, but I feel like it matters because when we talk about spirits, which will come up, Jezebel Spirit, this is an idea that people believe that there is like a spirit. Like, do you ever see season 3 of Twin Peaks? There's a spirit called Jowday, and David Lynch likes to make Francis Bacon paintings into his moving paintings in the form of his Twin Peaks. So he has a demon come out of a Francis Bacon box. I don't know what else to call it, like a glass box. And that demon is Jowday, and it's another thing from a Francis Bacon painting. And it's a spirit, it's a demon, it's an evil entity. When David Lynch is making Twin Peaks, he knows about demons and like David Frost, Peaks and Frost. I know about spirits and stuff. And in some way, there's probably David Lynch put Jezebel Spirit stuff in Twin Peaks because it's all about women and sexuality and Laura Palmer and all stuff. So this is all part of our popular culture. I know Twin Peaks isn't the most popular thing, but there is something of possession of Jezebel Spirit in terms of like spirits and stuff like that. I mean, I even remember somebody telling me once that like it was traditionally known that like when you drank spirits, like you would see like the spirit of the person would come through because they'd be drunk, you know. So I know God hates drunkenness and everything. That's like something in the Bible. It's said repeatedly. But also they say when someone gets drunk or you drink the spirits, well, if you're a bad person, you can get taken over by spirits, and if you're a good person, your true spirit comes out. So sometimes people are nicer when they're drunk, and that's just the way they are when they drink. And you're like, wow, I wish you could drink all the time. And then they do. And then probably that's bad. Some people drink and all their bad stuff comes out, or they black out and they don't remember anything. Is it demon possession? I don't know. This is going to be like a longer, meandering episode that I'm wrecking. But I wanted to stay focused on Jezebel Spirit. So first, just a little bit on spirits. So they got something. And there'll probably be more. I'll pepper like, oh, I got to interject something here. So anyway, that's where this book's coming from. And I don't know anything about this guy's ministry or if I should be holding up this book for so long. But the point was Jezebel Spirit. But also, if you just want to think of it in terms of social engineering or political strategy for like historically, what is it that globalists would like to use from things from the past? What did King Ahab's wife do? Let's do that now and call it the new kind of feminism, because that's basically what I'm saying. Like, I'm combining King Ahab's wife Jezebel and what she did back then with the destruction of the Western canon, which is movies and stuff and popular culture, because I'm the man without a pop culture. The destruction of all that with this Jezebel stuff It's like everything like that this guy says about Jezebel in the past. I'll read some things. Like the name Jezebel means completely incohabitable or something like that. Like you can't live together. Like there's without cohabitation or something. I'll find it. But by definition, it means you cannot like you cannot cohabitate with this person. Like it's all about self-absorption and the self, like by definition. Jezebel literally translated means without cohabitation. And then here's what it says in the book here. This simply means she refuses to live together or cohabitate with anyone. And it makes me think about my channel being named, my old channel, being named Extreme Narcissism TV, because that's what I saw. It was like everybody had a camera and was sort of like throwing themselves up there as a false idol. Like, forget about worshiping false idols. I will make myself a false idol and worship unto me. And it's encouraged. I mean, social media kind of encourages, like, let's see how many social credit points we can get, you know, with our interactions. If people think we're funny for doing push-ups in a weird way or whatever it is, or, you know, making a joke about pizza with a kitten. You know, but the point is that you did it, it's about you, you know. And then you worship at yourself and you think about ways to, you know, it's just bad. You know, it's like making everybody into the shoddy businessman that sells spiritual goods at the store. And stuff like that's not supposed to be for sale. And if you sell it, you injure yourself spiritually and all that stuff. So, forget about that. Just in terms of, like, if we encourage women and men to behave in such a way like Jezebel encouraged people to do back then, and they behave that way, this is how we can break apart a society of, you know, like families and people that care about their future and their children, and reduce them to a people of, like, bio units that just move wherever we put them. And if we want them to stop making more units, we can sterilize them and do all kinds of stuff and discourage them from pairing up. I mean, my channel is also called Champion of Love. So one of the things I see that happens with what we'll call Jezebel Spirit for this episode is that it doesn't equal a couple staying together, because if women have been with too many men, like they just don't wind up with anybody, or if they do, they just keep cheating and it's not lasting. Like, you know, I'm not going to get into that. Let's talk about Jezebel Spirit more. To understand the spirit of Jezebel, we must understand the genesis of this personality in the Bible. The first mention of Jezebel is seen in the rebellious, manipulative wife of King Ahab. It was actually this spirit operating through Queen Jezebel. This guy believes in spirits, which had caused over 10 million Hebrews, all but 7,000 faithful souls, to bow to Baal. That's always been a problem. Did you ever hear Beelzebub and demons and stuff? That's just Baal. Baalzebub. It's like Greek for Baal. Baalzebub or something like this. Jezebel caused them to forsake the covenant. This is like the covenant with God, like the old one, like with, I guess, with Moses, right? Them to forsake the covenant, destroy sacred altars, and kill the prophets. This one spirit was almost totally responsible for the corrupting an entire nation, and this principality has come full force against our nation. So this guy's purporting like America has become possessed of the Jezebel spirit. And boy, I'm not going to argue about that. There's all this stuff that's being propagandized now. Like I said, I'm a man without a pop culture. Look at what the themes are. Like, all roll like things like Ramona and all the girls in this and this kind of mindset. It's not favorable. And then stuff like this. I got this for $1 and I've seen it. And every single woman, like, this whole show is just all like, what agendas? Just give me everything and I'll make it work into a soup. I'll put it all in there. And he does, and he makes it work. You know, whoever made this show is probably like 12 directors or something. But anyway, look. All the women are all like, they embody, like, here's parts of the Jezebel, and they all like we're gonna shine this part the brightest, you know, like they're all Jezebel spirits, but they shine different aspects of her treachery or something. Or, you know, like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this episode. It's pretty big. Because it's like omnipresent. It's like what isn't polluted in the West with this Jezebel Spirit stuff. I mean, you don't have to call it Jezebel Spirit, but the social engineering programming of feminism, Jezebel Spirit feminism, it's the same thing. They changed the name. In the past, it used to be called, Jezebel Spirit. Now it's called feminism, wave 4 or 5, crimson wave feminism, whatever they call it now. I'm not dismissing it at all because its damage has been done. It's just people that have become so selfish they don't care about the future. They just want control at all costs. And now more than ever, people are being encouraged to just, get theirs. There's a whole book on it. This book was made for ministers. What Jezebel hates. Jezebel's worst enemies are the prophets. Her worst fear is that the people will embrace repentance. Yeah, what's the biggest problem? This like disease of victimhood where everybody thinks they're the victim and they want to blame everybody else for their problems. Well, they did this to me, so that made me behave like this from now on because of that, and it's their fault that I'm that way now. No, somebody wronged you. We all have different learning curves. Did you ever do something wrong to somebody and then you know that you did it wrong and you feel bad about it? You're like, oh, that was on me. Yeah, some people have no idea what that's like. They refuse to get to that point, and that's where the repentance thing that I just read comes in. If you don't want to come at it from a religious perspective, you can come at it from like just pragmatic, like reason or whatever, although I don't like to use that word, but we'll just move on, okay? So if you just want to be like a reasonable person and say, I don't know, whatever, some shit about Jezebel. Oh, yeah, like not being able, like this doubling down they talk about. People doing like where nobody can just ever admit like that they did anything wrong, or if they did, well, I did it wrong, but that's only because something else, that they can't just admit it. Like just admit it and eat shit, and you're like, I know, I was terrible. You saw me like that. Now I have to be different. Maybe I could be a better person now. I'll change anything. Or they just quietly do that and you never get an apology, but they become better. That's not encouraged anymore. It's encouraged that it's always somebody else's fault, and you should take responsibility for stuff like doing your part to live the austerity mindset, which is poverty mindset. Let's stay focused on Jezebel Spirit. This isn't the way I wanted to do this episode, but I've tried to do it like a bunch, so I'm just gonna keep going. So I apologize if this isn't as concise and direct as I had intended. And this guy just talks about how Jezebel is a spirit and hates God and hates the prophets and stuff like that. I don't know if that's, I mean, it's interesting to me, but I don't know if that's what I want to talk about. I should just do an episode separately where I just read this and then interject wherever I feel like it. Maybe that'd be the better way to do this. Do you want me to do that with this? Or just start reading this pamphlet? I don't think so, because I think parts of it, I don't know who watches this or to what degree they're interested in stuff of our Lord and that kind of thing. Not to dismiss it, I mean it. Like, I don't know. I just want people to call Dad. So, you know what I mean? Like, don't you just watch everything? Like, people didn't like Captain Marvel. I don't know. They're probably going to not like Wonder Woman 2. She's probably going to like, remember all the stuff you liked about her before? Well, now she changed her mind about it. Something like this. Whatever they did to Star Wars, that they ruined it. And it's just like, men like women. They'll watch women as their stars. They don't have to be sexualized for them to like the woman, fall in love with the woman character, whatever it is. But that's not what they're doing now. Like in movies, they're just like, the women are monstrous. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a hero of virtue as a woman, which would be something. It's like a deconstruction of feminine qualities. And then it's called feminism, but really what it is like destruction of the feminine. Like, what are these things that are the most basic, or let's even go so far as to say divine? What's divine about feminine qualities that are just the most woman-y things? Well, to be a woman, let's not exemplify those most divine qualities of women, or whatever the highest things would be. Let's break down and deconstruct the woman. Everything's about deconstruction. It's post-humanism. So you take apart what man is, and then you get feminism wave, whatever it is, and then that just becomes a bunch of grunting, dumb, drooling women going, men bad, must kill, smash, and they wreck their own neighborhoods and ruin their own supply chains and stuff, and it gives them nothing except the hard times they expected, and then they just keep on denying. They don't know they have anybody to talk to, so they keep on denying that they could repent. It's what that guy said here earlier, when I read it from the book, denying that you could recognize what you did, that it was wrong, and own it and say, well, I'm not going to behave like that anymore, and feel bad about it. There's something you gain in life from just knowing you did wrong, and you feel bad, and you should, but you don't stay that way forever. You just don't do that stuff again, because you have no excuse, because you know that it cost you something, and you're supposed to hurt because you did wrong, and that's your way of knowing, yeah, maybe this is bad that I did this thing, whatever it is you did to wrong somebody. But with what am I even talking about anymore? So anyway, Jezebel Spirit. It's a doozy. Sexual immorality. Men and women can't stay together, and you're supposed to be together with somebody for life. I don't want to do this episode anymore. Men and women, they're made for each other. It's the most basic thing. Why? Because if it's safe, then you bring the next generation of people here. And then you stay together to raise them, because it takes a long time for a child to grow up into an adult. And then they grow up, and then need an example of who to be and who to find. So as the mother and father of your child or children, maybe you have several, alright, you have to be, it was supposed to be here's some good ideas to live by. You exemplify those ideas, or ideals rather, and then you'll be a good example of a man, or a good example of a woman, and your progeny will look at you and say, here's an example of who to be, and an example of who to find. Not that you're supposed to be looking for your parents, but you need a good example of a woman, you need a good example of a man. So when you grow up, you can be a good man or a good woman, and you know how to find a mate. Why? Because then you have kids, and your kids grow up, and your kids have kids, and you become grandparents, and you're still alive, and you keep aging, and you learn things about the life, and you, hopefully as you get older, your help, the world has changed so much, but you would have your wisdom from your lifetime. I'm just going to make it simple. You would have your age and experience to offer to your children growing up, and the more that's offered, ideally what was supposed to happen was that each generation would be better and flourish, instead of getting lazy and flounder and not take care of things and stuff like that, which is what seems to have happened in the West, alright? But what was supposed to happen, what could happen, is, real progress, people living to be great grandparents, and then getting, and being cognizant, being able to dispense what it's like to live so long, and seeing the changes of the world, and in your local place where you live and where your family lives. I know people move all over the world. They didn't used to do that in the past. It doesn't matter, I'm not saying everybody has to go and live in a feudal system. They want you to have that anyway. But if you break apart this structure of the family, you control people, and you make them believe lies when you tell them that their lives are meaningless and that virginity doesn't matter and you should just throw it away. I mean, so much of popular culture for the last 30 years, or since the 80s or 70s in cinema, has told women, go get rid of your virginity, like it's some kind of quest to throw it away. And this, again, premarital. America used to be a place where women, girls had hope chests, because it was filled with stuff so that when they got married, they would, it was to prepare them, to think about that they had a future, that they get married, that they have a family, and all the things that would bring the next generation here, which is why people love their moms so much. But moms don't get to do their thing right when the state or the welfare state takes care of moms, like it's been set up, in the West, and the dad isn't needed anymore. So people have basic purposes, and the planet's really simple. Men and women were made for each other. We're supposed to take care of each other and our children, and then steward the planet. And there's different roles we have for different stages in life, and as our bodies deteriorate and stuff, we have things to offer still. you know, while we're here. And it's gone so fast, especially when people don't have any basic stuff to think about when they're developing, to grow up into, which is why the family structure is so important. So if you want to control people because you have a place that's strong and they project ideas and values for the world, get them to a point where you help them degrade, you know, through media, through movies and TV and music and everything, all your exported pop culture, like, you know, America to the world is what I'm talking about. To degrade the idea of the family, to tell people to go out and experiment and bring a third party into a relationship where it's supposed to be two people together to make a bond that's lifelong. That's why great-grandparents, because there's stuff to give the whole way through. Even if I kind of didn't go through like stages of development, like, hey, first your parents, you make your way in the world, you find a place to live. Is it safe? Cool. You bring people here. You know, I know people just get here these days by like, I guess we're going to try and make it work as a family because I'm pregnant now. And you're like, okay. And it doesn't work. And then it's single moms or single dads or single grandparents raising grandkids instead of parents, and everything's a mess. And all of it is Jezebel Spirit, and it's encouraged in the popular culture. I mean, this isn't, I shouldn't be picking on this, isn't like the worst example, but this is a pretty bad example. I mean, all the females in this are like all some kind of different form of like some kind of obnoxious alpha male type as a female character, and all the men are just like always get out of the way, like over and over again. The men just like, okay, and then the women do stuff and just punching out guys with one punch and all this stuff. And it's not what it's like if you're really living the van life like it's gonna be. It's not gonna be cool like you think, and it gets cold in a metal box at night, and a snake would never be able to live in conditions like that. It'd be dead. So many people pointed it out. It's all a lie. But why? To get at that womb. Why use the tactic from a social engineering standpoint? Let's go back to that now. Why use Jezebel's spirit for social engineering purposes of King Ahab's wife and all? Why use that? Control of the wombs. Because the plans for the future are old books from the past. I said it before, I'll say it again. I purport that the entire genre of science fiction exists solely for the purposes of the wealthy elite fulfilling their plans of a perfectly managed system like they try to do in Rome, where every single person is accounted for. But now to take it further, because we have the technology to have every, like, you know, with all the Google Earth and all this crazy camera surveillance stuff that we have, like HARP and DARPA, geoengineering, weather control, climate control, change tactics, you know, these things are being used. Why? Because it all comes back to Jezebel Spirit, because I am still focused on the main episode here. There are a wealthy elite whose fortunes control the fates of nations, and they want the populace of the world reduced to the point where it can be completely controlled and managed by systems that need minimal maintenance or minimal different people to maintain. So the entire genre of science fiction, like from H.G. Wells and probably H.P. Lovecraft too, and these guys had in their heads ideas of a future, you know, not any kind of future you or I would want, but it's like a future where everyone, a perfectly managed system. I'm just gonna say it like that, even though I want to say more and it's meaner and everything, and it's sick. But you got to get at those wombs, because that's how everybody gets here. So in the book Brave New World, which is like an old science fiction work, I guess you could say, from 1932 or 1922, I forget when it came out first, but that's a long time ago. So Aldous, when he probably was a much younger guy, wrote Brave New World, and in it all the babies are born in a hatchery. And if you're born through a womb, like your mom has you out of her body, then you're born on like a human reservation, which is stuff tech people talk about now. We're going to have the world completely smart cityed out. And then if there's people that want to live outside like that, like ants, they can live like that as dirty people, and we'll monitor them, and we'll mess with them and stuff. These guys have said this like openly on like these big slobs in their YouTube things that are like part of you are like, who's controlling the Matrix? Guys like Jordy and all those kinds of disgusting people. And whatever that guy's name is. There's a bunch of them like this, and they look at like all this Huxley's Brave New World as like, yeah, like Paul the Savage hangs himself, like give up on trying to have families, and John the Savage's mom just wants to go back to the Brave New World because it has all the gadgets and everything, and they immediately give her medicine, and the medicine makes her sick. This Jezebel Spirit is a social engineering tool that was used in the past by Jezebel, wife of King Ahab. She got her killed. Like, she was so destructive. Like, Jezebel, we're shutting you down. They threw her out of a window, like by decree. Whoever it was, whoever's in charge or whatever. So, I wanted to say something before about like different empires and something with Rome. Not about the fall of it, but just like the way that they did stuff to make you understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me. But anyway, this Jezebel stuff has permeated pop culture, and there's the blog that encourages this like feminist stuff. And if you do any homework or looking, if you really are a feminist and you look into it and you do any homework on what it is, you can see that it was came up with by think tanks of men a long time ago. Maybe there was a couple women in there, but it's all propaganda to deconstruct the family, to get control of those wombs, because in Brave New World, the babies are born in hatcheries. And one of the main characters, who's a woman, who's like an Alpha plus woman or whatever, is Lenina, named after Lenin, the dictator guy. But it's a woman. And Lenina kind of loves up on kind of whatever guy she wants because she's very beautiful, but she doesn't belong to any man, or no man belongs to her. And John the Savage has a mother from natural birth, and he's from like the regular old world like it used to be. Like, he comes from some kind of like, human reservation. That's what they call it. And when he sees the Brave New World, it makes him so distraught that he hangs himself. And the point is that there's no hope for love, and men and women don't get to be together, and the babies get to be born in hatcheries, and Mustafa Mon's still in charge of it all. That's Brave New World. And there's so many books like this. Like, you look at Asimov's stories, or any of your science fiction authors, they all know about these globalist books and their plans for the future, and some of them serve them, and some of them write story like George Orwell's 1984. What is it about? Just dispensed like right away. What's 19? Get on with it. Men and women aren't supposed to be together, and if Winston and Julia try to kiss each other, they're gonna get the shit beat out of them by the gulag or whatever kind of, super police or whatever it is, until they willfully admit, do you like her anymore? No, I don't like her, let me go. And they let them go. And then look at Julia, do you like Winston anymore? And she's like, no, I don't like him anymore. And they let him go. What is George Orwell's 1984 about? Men and women aren't allowed to be together in the future as couples. It's just not allowed. But in Brave New World, which is written earlier than George Orwell's 1984, people love the Brave New World, and they don't care about being couples, and it's old-fashioned, and 3 months is a long time to be paired up with the same person and nobody else. It's like, kind of like, what's you, weirdo? And it's all about young people, and Logan's Run. There's all movies about this stuff. But how do you get to all this stuff that I'm talking about in the episode about Jezebel Spirit? Why am I bringing all this into it? Because Jezebel political programming of the populace back in the time of King Ahab has been modified and refined since then, with different waves of feminism and whatever you called it in the past, where these little hemorrhoids came up that are real problem. The hemorrhoids you can live with. This you can't live with Jezebel. She's incompatible, incohabitable, or whatever it was. You can't live with her. No, she must have control. You must be crushed. Hence usher in the age of the beta male provider, where Paul Cuck and all those other guys have their hands in each other's pockets and are wearing pink t-shirts. They're letting you know, like, this is what they're not going to live like that, not at all, unless they like that kind of stuff. It's their kink. No, they want the regular people to say, man, submit, and then women, like, just not just role reversal, but it's a Jezebel. I mean, this whole book is about it. Like, this whole thing is about ... I should do an episode. I said I should do an episode where I just read it. And but yeah, the Jezebel program, or whatever you want to call it, is being used now as like your feminism is modified Jezebel stuff. Like it goes way back. And in Rome, they want to take census. That's what I was going to say. They want to take census and get everybody roped in. So that's what we're all living through now. And Jezebel Spirit is one of the tools to isolate and get at that womb, to make sure that the babies only come out the way that they want. They want to control the development of the next generation. They can have a perfectly managed system. And to do that, everybody must be accounted for. So in times of ancient Rome, they had census. So they said, everybody, you have to, because Rome was the empire. Like to Rome, like if they said the world, that meant like Rome meant like their empire. But to them, it was the world because it was such a huge empire, the Roman Empire at a time. So there was a time when Rome wanted to take census of the world, all their empire and all their rule, which was huge. So they told everybody to go home where they were born, to tell them I was born here, when they were born here, how old they are, because they wanted to know who everybody was and then tax them. So in this case, they have other things that they want us to all do and all be accounted for. Hence all the technology and the surveillance stuff and how they want us to behave and to keep our distance, so that all our interactions are controlled, so that people don't get together to say, hey, we don't like this. No getting together anymore of people and stuff like that. So how do you make all that work? Jezebel, you divide men and women from one another. And you put it in every single movie and TV show since like the 1980s, when they started doing that stuff where, oh, guess what? The girl's a car mechanic because her dad or her brothers were mechanics, and she's a tomboy, and all the girls are tomboys, and they all know martial arts, and they can flip a guy. All this stuff where like the 98-pound pretty girl is doing all that stuff that isn't real. Like, like before women actually started taking taekwondo classes and all that shit, which they do now, and punching and foxy boxing and all that. I'm just kidding. And all, like learning how to kick dudes' butts. They had to get propagandized to them by making them fearful of attacks and things like that, which are valid things for women to worry about, or not to worry about, but concerns of women in the world to be preyed upon by men that are bigger than them and all that stuff. Sure, genuine fears. But when you have, the technology of TVs and phones to get to everybody, you really can, can really program somebody's entire development. I'm the man without a pop culture. I said I stopped paying attention to it because the programming got so over the top. I'm like, I get it. Everything is completely controlled now. We're heading into that phase, like class 4 society, where they have like weather, like weather manipulation, and we have like we're just like an ass hair away from augmented reality, which is terrible. It stinks. But am I still focused on Jezebel Spirit? Yes. Because by destruction of the womb, and the woman not caring about her womb, with all the stuff about abortion, and I don't even need to get into it, you can find out what you want about it. But all that stuff of just getting women not to care about the womb, or what happens to the next generation, or that they would have that in them, or that it would matter to raise it. No, it's about selfishness, and that's the whole thing of Jezebel. She was all about telling people to just be selfish, forget the old covenant with God and all that stuff, and just do whatever you want, do as thou will, which is a terrible idea, because there's like some rules to live by. I think they're called 10 Commandments, and even if you don't like the religion, if you look at the 10 Commandments for what they are from a sort of like social engineering standpoint, it'd be good to obey them. But if you look at the way we're being socially engineered, it's about the destruction of those 10 Commandments into a society that could somehow work where everyone's like crafty and devious, like they warn us about, like when in old books, like old Asian books, and they say, be wary of the empire when all the people become sly and crafty and have a wit about them and stuff, because that means like falling apart, it's a sign of cultural collapse, some kind of mania or something, right? It's in like Do De Yang and a bunch of other things. Why did I say this? Because they know, like, when empires fall apart and people have to lie, cheat, and steal, they get witty. And I think about how, in the West, everybody's on their phone, they do tweets and Twitter and all these things and all different platforms, and it's all about like promoting yourself as some kind of idol or icon. Again, something you're not supposed to do. Don't have false idols and stuff. 10 rules to live by. Planet Daddy issue. I've been saying it for years. It's definitely part of it. Jezebel Spirit. Jezebel is about the woman being in charge. Forget about the idea of a father figure or a man leading or anything. No, it's all to be destroyed because Ahab was some kind of pushover or something, or he liked the way that his wife knew how to manipulate. It cost her life. And if you do want to take it from a religious perspective, I don't think God likes her. And if there is such a thing as Jezebel's spirit, it needs to be obliviated. You know what I mean? Like obliviated to like there's nothing left of it, because it is so destructive. Not that women should be, you know, like slaves to men. That's not part of any Bible. It's not in the scripture. It says, and your woman should be a slave unto you. It's not in there. Okay, there's nothing like that. But there definitely is a corruption and, you know, cultural collapse and fall of empires and stuff like that when you get people to forget about their basic drives. Like, men and women were made for each other to stay together for a lifetime, and great grandparents, just that is enough proof. But great grandparents, like, if I think a lot of people used to, I think there's potential for there to be more great grandparents in the future if we could get a generation of young people to get it into their heads, like, pair up, build a lifetime with somebody, don't fornicate, don't throw your bodies around, which is being encouraged anyway. They want depopulation, but okay, to give us the depopulation agenda, let's get rid of the Jezebel spirit part of it, where people just, you know, or whatever they're doing. Like, I don't want to get into all that. Like, they'll bring back promiscuity if everybody gets their shots or whatever, and just as long as it doesn't lead to people staying together, because people that stay together will want to build something. So if you have a bunch of people of like, it's like people that want to start families, or men and women, or people that paired up. Even, I know same-sex couples, I'm not going to judge or anything. They lived and died together in the same house that they had like their whole adult lives. They were a couple, they stayed together, they did their things that they did in their house, but like, people want to pair up, even if they're the same sex couples. They want people to pair up, we're made to pair up. But clearly men and women were by design made, however that design is, were made to pair up. Why? To bring the next generation of here to be an example of who to be through all the stages of life. Alright? And to also help out your family and still have something to live for and lessons to learn. And it all works out until we're deteriorated enough that because we took care of our families and loved them, when we're weak and infirm, as happens in our old age, because it's just what happens. It's history of everyone, of ever. Well, if you're a good person, then you have people to take care of you, so it's a nice rest. You get to take a break, and when you die, it's okay. Eternity awaits. So Jezebel's spirit, is there some kind of big, like a spirit, like a ghost or something, like Ghostbusters ectoplasm thing that's like calculable, like Zool or Gozer to Gozerian kind of thing? Is there some kind of Jezebel spirit that kind of is big and pervasive that could sweep into men and women? Because Jezebel's spirit's not just something that possesses women, it possesses men and makes them, you know, subject to like weak and lustful things. So is it a thing, like an entity or an egregor or some kind of thing like that? Is there some kind of thing? Because again, if we're going to talk about it biblically, to keep going with that, to go back to that now, there's spirits and demons being cast out in the Bible. You know, Paul and Silas getting beaten by rods for casting out helpful spirit that was good for money, all that stuff. There's more. What other accounts are there of like demons? There's so much demon casting out. All the apostles do it. They can't believe that they've been given authority by God over, they've been given dominion over demons. And then God's like, yeah, why are you surprised by that? Like, I made it all. I know about that stuff. I said, as long as you do it in my name and don't try and take credit for yourself and be selfish about it, if you can cast out demons, you can cast them out. And it gets even detailed. Like, one time they can't cast, the apostles can't cast out a demon. So Jesus, this is before the resurrection, he's alive in the material embodiment. He says, oh yeah, it's like, it's hard to cast out like a demon of epilepsy or something like this, because that will require fasting and special meditation, and then you can get rid of those demons. you're like, what? It's like very specific. But there's all kinds of stuff about demons in the Bible. But also there's a distinction. It's not just demons, it's spirits. Then there's stuff like a spirit came over them and this and that, or possessed by a spirit, or spirits, and like helpful spirits or whatever. I think the point is you're not supposed to mess with them. There's demons, those are bad. There's spirits, don't mess with them. Don't do Ouija boards, don't do all that stuff. Don't. There's realms, you know, like that's how they talk about it. But in terms of like as a programming tool, yeah, they used it in the past. They could look at different things. We're like, that's sort of like a Jezebel thing. This is some people's jobs. There's like a class of 6,000 or so social engineers, and it's their job to come up with how they want us to live. And this idea of Jezebel, how her ideas pervaded the land and people took to them. It got them to destroy their old covenant, to destroy their covenant rather. This is Old Testament, that's why I said Old Covenant. To destroy their covenant with God, which is 10 Commandments from Moses, is it not? Like, here's the rules to live by, don't break them. Get married, stay married, don't get divorced, don't covet, don't beat your spouse, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, honor God, honor your mother and father that made you, do all these things. Because then when you get old, you take care of them, and you're going to get old, who's going to take care of you? You have to be a good example of taking care of your parents. Because when you get old, then your kids are going to see how you took care of your parents and take care of you. How good is anybody going to take care of you? If anybody cares about you when you're old, this is before nursing homes, I guess. How is anybody going to take care of, are they going to care about you? Or you've been a shitty person your whole life? How are you going to be treated? You see how people get treated in nursing homes. It's probably pretty terrible a lot of times, and they're so doped up they don't notice it, but you know, it's happening. Is that any way to go out? And you want to be surrounded by loved ones because you have them, because they care about you. I think you'll probably be better off in your old age if you have such, you know, like, it's going to make you have a better old age if you have people that love you around you, as opposed to like, well, my parents hated their parents, so I saw how they treated grandma and she was a bitch. She gave me some money and was like, not enough, or whatever. Whatever people think, they're horrible now. But you know what I mean? Like a chore to go visit your parents in a nursing home when the kids don't want to see their grandparents. I don't want to go there. It smells. It's weird. I can't go there because of disease. Whatever it is this year. But you know, to separate that as a willful effort to separate the wisdom of age and dope it up from the folly of youth and like all that. Like, don't do this. We made these mistakes. And don't listen. Just keep watching whatever's on your monitor tells you to do. And it tells you young hearts be free. And even when you're 45, it still tells you young hearts be free. And you're not so young anymore. And you're not so free. And the women can't have a baby. And the men are like, did I build anything that I can get a woman with a viable womb? And the answer is no. You're just, you know, where are they? You're just old Scott and Ramona, who's just a little too puffy, and Scott, who has like a weird belly and stuff, and they're just used up and tired, and they deserve each other. And she has too many cats, and you know, he has, I don't know, whatever would be wrong with Scott when he's older. But anyway, possessed of the Jezebel Spirit. Yeah, you're not supposed to sleep around, I don't think. I think it's bad for people to sleep around. I've done episodes on it before, but they always come out wrong. This one isn't any good either. You'll probably never see it. It goes in the Prince Vault with all the rest of the episodes nobody can see. But I wanted to do this thing like I've done it before in the past, maybe better, maybe worse, where I talked about the Jezebel Spirit as sort of the spirit of our time. I'm not the only one to say it. A lot of people say it. Just to use it as sort of like a catch-all, even if only figuratively, as like a mentality or a mindset that is sort of inflicted upon everyone through mass media and pop culture, and it's painted as though it's some kind of like, we got to make the world a better place and it'll all get better, you know, when we belong to each other and we don't matter because we're all equal. And no, like, there's books written about this and how to get to these stages, and here's how we get people to do this, and here's how we get to do that. And you can look at history and see what they did to people, and read books about history, and you can see how they manipulated a populace. You can see what the signs of cultural collapse are, and what is all that there's always somebody waiting to restructure the whatever collapse it is, you know, like whatever it is they want to make after it. I mean, sometimes empires fall because they're terrible, but like this is different. This is like a manufactured thing that we're living with now, and they have like they already know what they want to rebuild, and stuff like this has happened in the past where people will say, "What are they doing to us now? Oh, I can see what they want to do to us. That's terrible. We're not going to like living like that." So if you want to liken it to some kind of new global census, like the Roman Empire is umbrella corporation, and global or the wealthy elite is the Roman Empire or whatever, and they want to take global census. So we're all living through part of that. But to break down families so they can control everybody and how our lives are and how we develop, you have to do a lot of history erasing. You have to destroy pop culture. You have to destroy the Western canon of the 20th century, or whatever century, which is movies and TV shows, by diminishing all the male characters, which has been like a theme for my channel for like the last, since like 2014, probably. Just talking about who's the dads and father figures they dismantled in pop culture this year. Every year I had a review. Here's what they did to Logan and Wolverine to kill father figures. Here's what they did to Luke Skywalker. Here's what they did to Han Solo. They must all be diminished so that men don't matter. It's in all kinds of socialist propaganda books, again, political strategies, that they must destroy this idea of God the Father and Jesus, that father concepts must be destroyed. And a lot of the guys that write socialist books, like Obama's dad, dedicate their works to Lucifer. This is all just like, it sounds like I'm doing a weird episode that goes all over the place. It's all the same thing. You can say it's strategy that was used in the past that's used again, and also it gets biblical. And you want to know if I believe in that stuff? Yes, I do. Do I go to Frampagné or Frangipane? No, I don't. I don't go to him. I don't know him. But this book is interesting to have, and I didn't even really get into it. There was enough for me to keep talking about with Jezebel stuff. But here's something he says. Look for Jezebel to target. He's talking about it like an entity, like Ghostbusters or Spirit or something, because it's Spirit. I guess the entity would be something else. Like when what's his name, Dan Aykroyd, when he got blowed, it was maybe entity. It was a ghost. I don't know. Is there ectoplasm? What happens when ectoplasm? What happens when ejaculate meets? What happens when seed meets a ghost? It's not supposed to happen. But there's stuff. Why did I bring that up? Because now they're talking about people who are like, I just have an affair with my imaginary lover. I've seen it. Like they put on talk shows and the people should be embarrassed. They probably are, but they go on shows and they talk about like their phantom lover and stuff. It's silly. It's very popular now to talk about demons and conjuring and false idols and American Idol. What's that? To be a pop star of songs they give you to sing because you can kind of sing. So they just, all you need is for us to polish you up and put you out there, and we'll polish you turds. If you can be the one that makes it, and the whole thing's fixed anyway, it's a big racket. American Idol's a big scam. But it says, while she uses every means of sexual perversity known in hell, immorality is not the issue. Control is what she seeks. Using the power of sexual passions for the purpose of possessing men. To a woman under the influence of Jezebel, or Jezebel programming or whatever. We can think of it like that, if you want to. Or Jezebel Spirit, whatever you like. Conquering a man need not involve physical contact if a seductive glance in her eyes will capture him. So think about all the online thoughterry and all this stuff where guys don't get anything except for, you know, like a text or something from a woman that may be typed by one of her guys that's in her booth that she's not even typing. And then she's just some kind of woman that's showing cleavage, and all these young people, men that should be looking for wives, are wasting any money at all on of their parents that they steal, that they live with, or whatever it is, and then giving it to online cam girls, stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like a thing of like the growing up generation to go in to, you know, like the girls with on Twitch and all that stuff. They want the future to be like that. People that stay at home and isolated, and instead of having relationships, they just send each other exchanges of not real anything. Like, forget about having a life. Forget about augmented reality. Just have a phone and just want to be able to go online to Animal Crossing. Forgive the indigestion. Just want to be able to go to Animal Crossing to all your virtual shit there and go foraging and scavenging around for garbage, which you could do in real life in the remnants of your fallen civilization. You're like, look, I found a cool plastic thing. Look, oh wow, this must have been somebody's house who had old Thundercats toys. Look at all the shit I'm finding. It's cool. I'm gonna put it in my shipping container online for the set of my podcast and see if I can get social credits, because I also found a lunchbox or a thermos or something from the franchise. Ready Player One. It's a weird movie, man. So what does it have to do with Jezebel Spirit? It's getting women to give it up. You know what I mean? Like, there's a virtue in, like, saving it for marriage. Like, why does the whole world, like, why give it away? Like, I said it before and I'll say it again. Who wants to buy that cow that everyone gets to spill milk on for free? You know what I mean? It doesn't, it's great that it's not great. Like, you think that it's great that you can just do whatever you want, so you do it and you get to, but that's now. Like, later, it just doesn't work out so great. Ever. Like, everybody thinks they're going to land that one guy just before it gets too late, and it doesn't happen. And you wind up settling, you don't get so many respect, and that's fine because they just don't want people to be together. And this Jezebel program really makes everyone miserable, even kids, because a lot of moms are Jezebels. Here's something about spirits. I don't know if that matters to you. This is from this guy. Although we refer to Jezebel as she, this spirit is without gender, like Jowday. Is Jowday Jezebel from Twin Peaks? Is without gender. However, is that what Twin Peaks Season 3 is about? The Jezebel Spirit destroying all cool Twin Peaks shit or something? I don't know. It's never cool. Anyway, where am I? Although we refer to Jezebel as she, this spirit is without gender. However, it is important to note that while men in leadership are the main targets of most principalities, Jezebel is more attracted to the uniqueness of the female psyche and its sophisticated ability to manipulate without physical force. So it's not about men and muscle and might and all that stuff of threats and things like that. That's one of the things about Jezebel. She's supposed to be beautiful, and she uses her bodily charms to charm away out of situations. And then right up until the end, she saw the guy coming up into her tower or whatever it was she was in to get her, so she tried to, like, turn on the appeal and the charm because she's pretty. And he's like, nope, you're going over the window. So he threw her out the window and had the horses trample her and then back up and run over her again to make sure that it was done. That's how Jezebel came to her end, the wife of King Ahab. So, yeah, I mean, look at sex as a weapon. Like, you're not supposed to be giving it away. There's so much movies in the 80s had the woman, like, giving away her virginity. Like, it was like, here's, like, the movie's open with it. Like, here's the thing of losing your virginity scene or a sex scene or something. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Or some movies just have this, like, you gotta get rid of your virginity. It doesn't matter. I mean, in the 80s, it was about men doing this. Losing their virginity and fornicating. You have to get laid. You have to go find a woman that's the kind of girl that anybody can screw, and then screw her and use her. Like, she doesn't matter. She isn't anybody. She's Jezebel or whatever. Doesn't matter. It was like a type, like, and it's not good. It's not a healthy thing. But, yeah, now it's just like, yeah, just be a slob. Just be, you know, just be a woman that's like all the worst behaviors of men. And somehow make that attractive to men, and then make things, you know what I mean? Like, it's just dumb. It's just, there's just so many different ways in the cultural petri dish, which is now global, that, and, you know, it's global. So, you can just, people can be so, they're so shapeable now, like never before, you know? And if you add into that fear tactics and all the entire history of of history, of like, what did we do to people in history to control them, what worked, and just keep refining and tweaking it and filter it through a phone or a TV screen, through movies and TV show programming. I mean, geez, like all the women are like, women in movies and TV shows are horrible now. I mean, like, it's a far cry from Judy Landers in the 1980s, where she's like, I don't know, what does that mean? Okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different thing. There was a thing in the past for a woman to be beautiful and naive and you know, and a virgin and all stuff. And now it's about, like, guys don't like a woman that has a lot of experience. Like, if you think about it for a minute, like, that's gross. Like, why do you want to date a girl who went out and got whatever she wanted? Because if you're dating her and you get to do the stuff you wanted, that's, like, what else has she done with a guy that's handsomer than you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get crude about it, but, like, you know, like, if you're getting to do all that crazy stuff with somebody that you're not married to, and you barely know them, like, hey, stranger, maybe this sexual encounter we have will lead to something. Is that really a great start from a relationship? When you're immediately spilling seed before you know someone, and you can spill it wherever you want, or whatever. People live this stuff. I'm somebody too. I don't, you know, I'm older, I know better. Don't do these things anymore. They don't want anybody to listen to it. They won't only want you to listen to whatever it is you watch. And don't be in the same room with somebody that have germs. You know, we'll make it, but then you can have germs again when we say so. After we shape you and mold you. Some more. So, yeah, this was pretty terrible with the women in it. Like, one is an overbearing, sassy black chick with a big, weird afro type of thing. It's like a thing they do in pop culture. And she's just impossible. You know, like, one punches people out, and she's just the best at everything. She's smart, and everybody just follows her around, and she's a leader, and she spoons the guy instead of the guy spooning her, and it's stupid. And then there's another character. There's a lot of characters like subhuman women or something. Then I was trying to think of the one that went. Oh, there's a character that's like, I'm a punk rocker, and I'm a witch, and I'm a vampire, and all that whole agenda stuff. That whole thing, do your witchcraft and sorcery, and paint your hair black and your eyes black, and I'm punk, and all that stuff. Hey, punk is like a political, it's like a military tactic thing. Isn't that like a Tavistock thing? The punk rock movement, where did that come from? It's like a totally manufactured thing made for the young people to create a certain kind of discord. Again, to work on breaking up the family, to break down society, so that it, again, like, they, for whatever reason, it's not enough to just like do stuff to us. Like, they got us to go along with it, so they can only they do like a little bit, and they push us, and they're like, let's see if we can get them to go along with the stuff we want to do. It has something to do with Hegelian dialectics or whatever. I don't want to get into that now. All right, where they make a problem because they know what the solution they want to be is, so they create the problem in a specific way. And then the problem happens to the populace. And then they're like, fix this problem. And they're like, well, here's a solution we have. It's what they want to do in the first place from the problem. That's why they created the problem. And people are like, do anything, do something. And then they change the world, and we live under more restrictions. In the past, it was Rome wanting to take census, telling everybody to go back to where they were born within their whole empire. And now it's like actually the world. We're like, we want to account for everyone anywhere, so we need to herd everybody up. Forget about census. We want to herd you up, people, and push you all too close together to live, and live like that. And we don't want you to think about ever, like, we want families, we want land, we need these basic things to subsist as a family and stay together. They don't want that. They want everybody to just do whatever they want to do with them. You go here, you go there. That's why they that's why you get like Chinese directors propagandizing stuff through their work, whatever you want to call their art, by making movies like Snowpiercer and stuff. It's just a basic Snowpiercer, the train that travels around the world. It's just the idea that nobody has a home anymore, and they can just move your little Chinese sewer tube home wherever they want. Your shipping container box can be moved to another place. That nobody will have a home, or that nobody can call any place a home except for the wealthy elite, because their plans are to have the whole world for themselves. So they want to degrade women, okay, because you have the wombs, and that's how people get here. And they don't want men to defend the womb, or men and women to stand up and take, like stand by each other, because that would be like the planet. Because if any men and women had the basic stuff that everybody wants, everybody'd want the same thing. And we could have it, because there's enough of the planet to share and spread out. Alright? And then maybe we could go to, just take other places on the earth where people don't live, and just, there's so much. Didn't you ever see all the videos of how big the planet is? Just in people's YouTube videos of places where people don't even live anymore, where it's all taken over. There's so much of the planet. They're lying. They want to push us closer together. And there's different programs they use on men and women. And one of them is this Jezebel stuff. And it's like a role reversal thing in part, where like they want women to not be like men, but to exemplify all the worst qualities of men that nobody should inhabit, and just be that. And that's, hey women, be a man. What's a man? All the things that we hate about him, we'll be that. Then we'll be in charge. Now we're a man. No, you have no idea about a man or marriage or building a life with somebody. Nobody told you that that's what life's supposed to be about. Or when you figured it out, you got too old, and then you can't admit that you messed up. And maybe you could still find somebody, even though you're getting old, you hit the wall, you drank too much and you're 45, you're 35, you have baby fever, whatever it is, somewhere in between, or 50, you don't have anybody. They don't, like Jezebel, I think I just read it in here, Jezebel hates the idea of repentance. But the idea that you would know that you were wrong and admit it, your life could change. So they want to encourage everybody, this is your media again, that you're the victim, that you should think about yourself, this encouragement of selfishness and self-love and not caring about other people, or all those things that are in the Ten Commandments. Forget about a partner and all that stuff. Just be isolated and alone. Be like Hermione from Harry Potter and stay at home with your Lion King online pornography things and stuff like that. And just stay home, be isolated bio unit, and that's you in the Matrix. You're in your life pod, in your little Matrix life pod tube, and you just want to be online all the time. That's all what the Matrix is supposed to represent. Augmented reality, you living like that, where they give you shit. They're shitty man-made versions of everything that they made that are not, the earth or anything good on it. They have all that for themselves. This is the plan. And then we have everything that's made for them. It's Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The air on Mars should be free. They're charging you for carbon, for breathing, all that kind of shit. Saying there's not enough. Well, it's just evil. It's just evil, evil, evil. But how do they break down people? It's working. They're using this Jezebel program, or if it's a real thing, it's a Jezebel Spirit. It's definitely, probably both. They're probably both a thing. It's definitely a political, social engineering strategy tool. There's so many different ways to come at it. We could do this, we could do that. Guys, different guys write their different books on it. But it's all kind of like the same end, where they control everything, and everyone and everything's accounted for, and that's what you get, whatever they give you, not anything you can make for yourself. There's no, you're not needed anymore. To them, it's just disgusting. And how do they get people to go along with it? Well, get men to give up on women and women to give up on men, and everybody just care about themselves and not care about having kids. And look at how everybody likes the weird Japanese stuff that everybody complains is bad and unhealthy for us that comes from Japan. Japan has a negative population rate. They're not making new families with each other. And they're like a beacon for the kind of future that your wealthy elite who's fortunate to control the fates of nations want you to have. They're like, look at them. They just do everything we tell them to. They want to be nice. They think it's great. That's a more brave new world. 1984 is like when you have to do stuff against your will and nobody wants it, so you have to just lie and hate it. That's like old communism. The brave new world is where you love Big Brother and stuff, and you love the slogan and the system and how everything's run, and you love your place in it. And if you're just a stupid epsilon that's so dumb you don't even think about anything. You just do whatever. You're just like the lowliest. You're deprived oxygen in the hatchery. You don't even get a womb. That's what they want to do. It's gross. So yeah, it's still about Jezebel Spirit, because it's, I'm gonna say, omnipresent but not omnipotent, in your popular culture. Like, it's pervasive, it's everywhere, but it doesn't mean like people like it. They don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not omnipotent. It's not all powerful over everything. It's in there. It's in everything. That's the omni. What do I have to keep going back between these two stupid words? They want you to, like, we don't care if you don't like it. Here's more of the same. We make your stuff right now, and you're going to keep getting this slop, so a generation grows up with all this stuff. These are your agendas, and we're feeding them to you through popular culture. Settle for Ramona. Be like Scott. Don't try too hard. Eat Twinkies and corn dogs from the gas station, or General Dollar Tree, like measles all over the West. Or be like maniacs. They're all these women all have dementia and mania. They're all psychopaths, Jezebels. And they all get what they want and sleep with whoever they want, and like all weird subhumans almost. I don't know, maybe it's a directing choice. But it's not healthy, it's not good. Where are the couples? Where is heroes of virtue? Where are what's the thing of love? Like champions of love. Where's the champions of love? Like men, it's the most basic thing. Men and women were made for each other because we have a planet to steward. All this stuff is under the dominion of man. But unfortunately, there are some people that had more money than everybody, and they keep handing over what it is that they do to generation after generation to try and get their twisted ways and beliefs and plans for us all to live under them. And it's weird because it's like they have to get us to go along with it or something, or it doesn't work. Because if they just want to do like power grabs and say, we will make everyone live this way, they could just do that. But it wouldn't work. It's like they want to try and mold and shape us generationally to just go along with it so it's easier to do. And like just keep messing with us. Do they go along with it yet? Okay, well, we'll try it again a little later. Do they go along with it yet? Well, things are different now. We're on like a fast track with phones and just everybody looking to that for advice and information. Really. Ooh, I need to know something. Go to your phone, go to internet. What's provided? Everyone knows the information's filtered. Everybody knows that, like, you know, Google got sued, you know, whatever came of that. Google got sued because, like, what are you doing? Like, you're evil and all stuff. Doesn't matter. The point is, in your pop culture, this Captain Marvel type is like all you're gonna get. Like, just name anything. The women are gonna be like that. The men are told to stand down. It was a thing that people complained about destroying Doctor Who. It was a thing they complained about destroying Star Wars and all the men of Star Wars. It destroyed the X-Men and whatever's to become of all the men. It just has to be destroy men characters, because men fight wars, men protect women. You know, for the most part, men have ruled men and women together. They have to be postmodern, deconstructed, because if people don't matter, you can do whatever you want with them. They're malleable, shapeable, changeable. So let's do all of our worst plans. And, you know, guys like Ridley Scott, who are like premier filmmakers on the planet and stuff like that, get to spend all this money to make movies like Blade Runner and other stuff they made that people don't watch. Because they are like programmers, like they are the guys that are shaping and molding. Like when he does Blade Runner 2049, like they want you to have that. You know what I mean? They won't have that, but they want you to think like, yes, you will live like this and have filth and everything. And it's just disgusting. They're weirdos. But it all comes back to Jezebel Spirit, because how do you break up the family? You get to the woman and you get her to think all the ideas of whatever, you know, whatever Jezebel is. Like, this book has a lot of stuff like Jezebel's this, Jezebel's that. I guess I didn't really read it. But here it says Jezebel hates. Jezebel's worst enemies are that the people will embrace repentance. Jezebel hates repentance. Through this spirit, though this spirit will infiltrate the church, masking its desire for... Okay. Jezebel hates humility. So again, this idea like of always being right and never... There's too many people like this now. I live in the same world you do. And men and women both. Everything is always somebody else's fault. You know what I mean? And you have people help each other, and then there's some people who are just like, no matter what you do, like somehow you're the villain or something. I don't know. I don't want to get personal about stuff, but it's like a problem. It doesn't matter, men and women both. It's like a thing that can just like ruin good people. where like it's encouraged in popular culture. It's in movies and TV shows all the time. Like that, it's not just a sense of entitlement that's been talked about for years. It's something other, and it has something to do probably with this idea of this Jezebel programming, Jezebel spirit, whichever you prefer. Where this focuses on narcissism and the self. A lot of your social engineers, Aleister Crowley was one of those, and he wanted everybody, he loved the idea of narcissism and absorption into the self, and that you would become some kind of, what was it called, like the, some kind of child, like you're this perpetual infant child that just always has needs and wants fulfilled, and you don't need anything real, just all the pretty things and all manufactured artificial stuff. Corrupt the youth as young as possible to just break their wills and get them into the system to just do whatever you want with them. And you know, there's a lot of history. If you see horrible stuff that was done to torture people and that they did historically, you can see that like people that were evil, like if you or I can know about these things, and we can, like the people in charge whose fortunes control the fates of nation, and the people that do their will and carry it out, like they know, they use everything that happened. Well, how can we use this to manipulate people? What can we do with 5G? What can we do with smell-o-vision and Netflix? And why? Why? It's all to get at your womb, women, because that's where the babies come from. That's where the next generation coming up in the next section. That's where they come from, out of the wombs. So get them to not care about their wombs. Get them to not care about having an example of a man, how to be to grow up, because there'd be nothing to fight for then. We'll just tell you how to be. You don't need an example of a man or a woman. That might change. We want you to be, so we'll do that. And it goes so far, even in as early as the early 1920s with Aldous Huxley in Brave New World. He foresaw a future that they wanted to live where babies are born in a hatchery, and only like alpha pluses and elite classes only they get to have progeny and families, and everybody else just, you know, gets to eat Cheetos and is sterile and is epsilon, and the babies are deprived of oxygen and they don't even have a womb. They grow up in a hatchery. That's what the Jezebel program, the Jezebel spirit, it's destroying. Like, do you see, like, if you get to the womb, there's no future for a family? Look at the epidemic of young adults that can't stand their single moms because it was just a lot for the mom to take, because they only had one example, and it was hard for moms to get through this world and all its programming. A lot of single moms just didn't care about their kids. A lot of 90s Gen X moms left their kids and left the grandparents of another generation to raise the computer kids, and all kinds of this stuff you can talk about the West falling apart. It's all about destruction of families, okay? And they tell you to be suicide girls and dye your hair and get tattoos, and it's just to ruin you. Like, you're all looking like old, what's popular? Dye your hair black and look like a harem girl. There's put elf ears on. It's all about artificial and illusion, and do all these outfits and things. I know it's not all women are like this, but this is stuff of our changing world, where there's things like cam girls and Twitch video game playing things, and whatever that morphs into. It's probably something else now. They're sitting on Twitch, sitting on a Sibian or something. It's probably already been done. I don't know, some kind of weird thing. Whatever is next. Disgusting. And that's the point. It's about the breakdown of morals and ethics and values, so people look at each other and go, ugh, it's disgusting. Like maybe you're not the most attractive person, but when you see people, you know, on Pornhub that are like sex athletes and they're beautiful people, and you're like, yeah, that's not me or anybody I'll ever be with, and it just doesn't it kind of make, you know, like, not to everyone, but it can make love pale, just like seeing it serialized every week on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or whatever shows reduce marriage into a contest where, you know, like, after they get married, they can just get divorced after like a couple years or season or 3 of their own reality show, when the reality show gets canceled after they get married. Whatever they decide to do with them, we're gonna go spelunking or whatever it is they do with the fake married couple on your, you know what I mean? It's just reducing love, and they want to do that because people that care about each other, that want to build a life together, will fight for the same basic things, and you cannot control them and manipulate them, because the basic things are clean air, fresh water, food, trees and plants that provide them, because that's what gives the air, and the freedom to move around and live in safe neighborhoods, and food to be provided for, and the ability to provide their own resources. But the future that's wanted by your social engineers and all your science fiction writers of the past and everything, is one where it's all perfectly controlled. But to get to that, they have to be people that write books on like climate and climate eco dystopia, and this is just all about like climate changing different regions to, you know what I mean? Like, this is all just disgusting plans that people have to just say, let's, you know all that stuff in the book of Revelation it says not to do? I think that should be our strategy for how we can control the planet. Let's just do all that stuff with technology, because they don't believe in the Bible or whatever it is. I have no idea. But it's like, there's so much stuff it says don't do in the Bible. And if you look at where our plans for progress in the future are, it's like, let's do all those things it says not to do. Let's live like that. Let's program people to hold all those values that are valueless, with no value views, values, which aren't values. It's just like Brave New World in 1984 figured these things out with the slogans and the different ministries that the ministries' names in themselves are lies. Like the ministry of truth tells lies, the ministry of love spews hate and discord and isolation, all that stuff. So these old books, were they good guys? Probably not. Some people were. Were they warnings? Like maybe C.S. Lewis wrote some good things. I never read his space stuff yet, but people told me I would like the outer space stuff that he did. I forget what it's called. I want to say Martian Chronicles, but that's like Philip K. Dick or something, isn't it? I don't know. Who cares? I mean, that doesn't matter for this. Jezebel Spirit. They just want to wreck women. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to do an episode, not cute enough, I guess, where they would listen to me. Like, stop letting it be done to you. Like, all this stuff that's supposed to be empowering to you is degrading you. And once the woman is degraded, then they come up with the backup programming and just say, well, they do it to men too. The programming says, the opposite sex is just no good and you can't trust them, so forget about them, and they're not relationships, they're relationships. Yeah, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to not be fornicating. I know it's so tempting once you've done it. I've done it. But it's, like, you're supposed to be trying to think, like, build a lifetime with somebody. But people usually don't think about that till they get too old, or till they've failed or half-assed a family, and they like have, like they've created a broken home for whoever it is they're bringing here. And, a lot of people want to be with, like, it seems like the system is set up, at least a lot of things in the West, like whichever parent wants the child, it's going to be hard for them to get them. And whatever parent wants to get support from the system, well, then the system favors that child getting custody. I mean, that parent getting custody of the child or children. I mean, there's all kinds of devious things like this set up. And again, they all encourage in the woman behavior of promiscuity and Jezebel, and just taking and always blaming. Like, it's so sad, but I don't like that it's true, but so many women I know refuse to take any responsibility for anything in their life. And they're too old to do it, in my opinion. Like, I thought with age came wisdom. Not to everybody. They still keep watching TV. So TV is telling old women, keep blaming everybody else and don't take any responsibility. Even when guys like Scott point it out because they asked me to, and I tell them, you did this, this, and this. And this is why it doesn't work out, because if anybody did it to you, it wouldn't be acceptable. Why is it acceptable if you did it? Because you're the main character in the story of your life, because you watch too much TV and movies, and you think that it's okay because you're you and it's cool and you should be forgiven. But, like, for the things you do to people, which is mostly you doing bad things to people, but you can't forgive anyone for anything? Yeah. And not only that, but everything is always somebody else's fault. And even if you get an apology from a man or a woman, sorry, it seems a lot. This isn't everyone. People are good. But this is like an illness that needs to be weeded out of us. And we can only weed it out when we can admit that we did things wrong that hurt ourselves and other people, and our choices affected our lives in the course of them. And when you can recognize that, then maybe your life can get better and flower out, and you can meet that person you wanted to meet and find your partner, and build whatever's left of your life with somebody and survive the apocalypse or whatever it is that we're going to go through. But as long as we're here and alive on this planet, love and the union between men and women and people pairing up and staying together as life mates lifelong without being with other people together one flesh, it kind of matters. Like, it's kind of like there's a lot of good stuff in there. But anyway, If you want to just look, like, forget about what Joe Rogan is telling you, or Graham Hancock, or Michelle Wolf, or any of these people you shouldn't be listening to, that I shouldn't even name. Forget about them telling you men and women aren't supposed to be together as couples. It's exactly the opposite. They want to create a system that stewards how people develop. They don't want men and women to develop properly. And look, a lot of damage has been done. We don't know who to be or who to find, but we can find ourselves and other people of like mind and get our lives straightened. We just have to recognize where we went wrong. There's not a lot to do down here. Men and women are basically on this same course to pair up with one another, or decide if it's a life of solitude or whatever it is. Some people live alone. They don't always, not everyone pairs up. Some people live like this. They will live like that. You don't have to do anything about them. But most people want to pair up, and they don't get to do that with anybody at all if they switch too many bodies. We can see the problems it causes. And then the older we get, the cuter it ain't. Men can get away with it for longer. They can get older and still grab a young one if they've established anything. But women, the older they get, they can't have babies. The life they've lived shows on their, bodies and faces, and then it's hard to find, man. And then they say, I don't want one. And then the men say, I don't want a woman like that. And nobody gets to meet up. And why? Because people are still blaming everybody else and not taking responsibility for, like, this is what's been done. And now where are you going from here? And you were wrong, bad to people and wrong people. Maybe you do need some apologies. And maybe this is some people you should leave alone, and you don't get to apologize to them. You know that you did them wrong, and now you just stay out of their life. Because I've seen this too, where people do say, I want to apologize. And then instead of, they apologize, but then they say, well, and this is where I want to go next. I'm going to apologize to you for a wrong I did, because I know it was wrong, but the only reason I did that was because somebody hurt me, and I thought that I should do that, so I did that to you. So that's why I did that to you, because somebody did it to me. Not excusable. I'll tell you why. Because I am a person that's had horrible things done to me, and they're so bad that it's just not in me to do that to somebody else. And I know that lots of people, probably most, are like me, and they just don't want to do those things. But we've really been messed with. And yeah, I think, I'm going to say right here, I think, not that it matters, but a lot of the damage is just by stuff that we watch that tells us how to think when we're growing up, and then we want to be like that character, or we listen to that bad advice. And it's available now more than ever. You can, whoever you can find, and tell you bad ideas that aren't working for them, but they're trying to make their life seem better than it is. They'll tell you how to behave. And some people are outright just wicked, and they know what they're doing is helping, for social, low-level social engineers as puppets or whatever, actors, performers, which actually I guess have a big important part in shaping your sensibilities. They tell you to do dumb things, and then you do them. Go out and be like Lady Gaga. Go out and be like Haley Montana, and all this stuff. It's all the same thing. Go out and sleep around and burn out, and then when you come down from the burnout, you can get your act together and get a life. What's to get? What's to be had? Like, they call it hitting the wall for a reason. It's hitting the wall. I'm old. Do you ever date baby fever, where a woman's like, yeah, I know what I did. I've been with a lot of dudes, but now I just actually like to have, and this is not a bad intention of a woman. This isn't like I'm saying you should shit on the woman or anything. She figured out, like, oh, like, I'm 35 and I'd like to have a baby before it gets too late, because I don't want it to be anything wrong with it. She has friends, they're having a baby, they're a little older than her, younger than her, and they're having a baby and they're having all these problems and blah, blah, blah. This is problems of the West. Maybe not the rest of the world. But because they figure it out, and women that are smart, that want to have careers in business, they always include that part where I want to do this and establish this, and whether they're practical or not doesn't matter. The women that have that mindset, that want to be professionals and stuff, always want to include this part where, and this is where I stop to have a baby, because then everything stops. And women that want to fit it in aren't really gonna, it's not gonna work. It's really hard to do, and your children suffer for it because they need that family structure. It's the most basic thing. It's like an open secret. Like, why don't you get, like, how would people get here? You need an example of who to be and who to find for peace on earth for all mankind. How do we get to this? You need to allow people to pair up, stay together, and have something. And that only happens if you spread out. And if you look at what's happening, they tell us there's not enough and they have to push us close together, and what we have is going to be limited, and it's lies. It's the complete opposite of that. And Jezebel Spirit, Jezebel programming is one of the tools that's done to men and women to mess up how we behave with each other, because then we can't think straight and our lives don't work out, and we can't fight for those basic things that we would want, which is clean air, fresh water, trees and plants that provide them, and room to have families, and room for our families to grow up, and for them to create families and fall in love and do all those same things that are basic things. Like, there's not a lot to do down here. You know what I mean? Like, world peace is obey the commandments, obey them. Look at them. Look at what the world looks like if you would live like that, and look at what the world is becoming, because you can see a deliberate, willful, concerted effort by everything you watch and see in movies and TV to say that doesn't matter anymore. You can just kind of have your own loose rules to live by. This is, you know, like very old propaganda books like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. His brother Julian coined the term transhumanism. And then Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote a book on it called Between Two Ages. And you have stuff like Battle Angel Lolita, whatever. So anyway, all I'm saying is women matter, men matter, we're made for each other. We're kind of like the most important things. So now they're telling us there's so many of us and it doesn't matter. And they have these teen pregnancy shows on TV all the time. Or just the one, teen mom or whatever it is. Probably like several. But anyway, they have that. It's kind of like MTV's not good. They're about the breakdown of things. Don't think about life. Just kind of start doing it. You're watch these girls have babies and be a mess. Then do that. It's as fucking direct. What else do you want me to say? See Teen Mom, teenage girls? Do that. And then watch Teen Mom, and you can live it because you're seeing your life on TV, so you can look at your life as TV. It also enters into like gamification of life. Again, like movie of Scott Pilgrim, or these people, you know, like Ramona's getting ready. I mean, they're in their 20s or whatever, but like Ramona gets older, hits the wall and stuff like that. It happens in Canada. I mean, Canada, you know what I mean? Like, look at what happened to them. It's a mess. They were on it years ago, all their progressiveness and everything. All this beta male stuff like Japan. That's why it was so polite and friendly. People have something to fight for. It'll be like maybe like an honorary American, which varies from state to state, because they have something that's theirs. Like, you're not taking this away from us. So it's kind of like, that's a good thing, I guess, about America. Another thing is that although it's like some kind of horrible experiment done to us, it is people from all over the world of different race, creeds, and colors. And, you know, it's not perfect, but there was a lot of living together and getting along and stuff like that. And again, families. People wanting the same thing. What was the American dream? To come here, to not have much, and to build something. To have the family, the home, and some kind of business, your own business. Isn't that like the American dream, basically? Right? Well, now it's been reduced to, you know, how do we get people online, take away everything else, and have them reduced to wanting social credits online. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say these things because I'm invisible. Maybe people will like me. Maybe I'll be one of the ones who'll be some kind of... This is what's given to young people now. The idea, like, if you show themselves and you encourage your narcissism and your Jezebel spirit, show your body or your abs if you're a guy or whatever, and do all this, you know, like, I guess you would say, like, stuff leading one to think of things of sexual immorality or lust before marriage and stuff like that. And it encourages it in young people. And you have a show like Teen Mom that says, hey, be a teen mom. And you have a show like Jersey Shore that says, don't think about the future. Vanity, tanity, go to the clubs, get drunk, you know, all just somehow it'll all be taken care of. And just think about that until we get to universal basic income. So I know I said Jezebel Spirit, but it's like encompasses so much because it's talking about the womb and the woman. And if you can get to her, make the man not care, and men and women can't be together anymore, and people have to wear masks so they can't fall in love, and they can only see through each other through eyes and stuff like that, and people are encouraged not to meet. It's just another tool, another means in the cultural petri dish, which is now global, to get people to say, we want you to behave like this now. You know what we did to China, what we're doing that you don't even know about yet? Well, this is all this, we're all doing all these things to everybody. Why? I don't know, like it's like the new version with it's a technocracy with Roman census. Like they want everyone accounted for, and if it's too many people, just get rid of them, and just we want everybody to think like this. And if, you know, old people hate young people hate old people, don't talk to each other, people in the middle don't trust anybody else either, and everybody stay home, stay alone, and eat your Dollar Tree, dollar store foods, and, you know, think about van life, think about living in a boxcar. Like, people that have had shitty times, they don't think that's cool. Like, they hate, like, do you know anybody that had to live in a van? Do you think they fucking like van life? No, because the van's just a metal box. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid. The tiny homes. I should have had my Ready Player One disc here. Ready Player One. It's so much about the future. It's just everybody being on cell phones, living in shanty towns, like not having much, and then wandering around. Valerian. Did you ever see the movie Valerian? It's a big multi-million-dollar French flop, where the lead, for some reason, his choice was to imitate Keanu Reeves as his character in the movie. Anyway, Valerian. The movie opens with them wandering around in the desert and dirt, and tourists go around in the desert and dirt and nothing, and they put on virtual reality goggles, or they get a shot or something, and then they're in like this virtual shopping center where they can buy shit from all over the world and have it sent back to their cubicle or their life pod that they live in. That's Valerian. It's like a big part of the whole beginning of the movie is them being in Robin Wright's The Congress, the next movie I'll bring. Robin Wright in the future. She's an actress. So she gets old, so her value as an actress is gone. But because of technology, the young version of her becomes a star, which keeps her and her autistic son alive. It's about augmented reality. The Congress is where Robin Wright goes. The animated reality that when she takes a drug and jacks into the Matrix, she sees augmented reality. She sees like the Google goggles, but everybody walking around is seeing it. So when the drug wears off, or she takes off her Google goggles, she sees that she's wandering around just like shantytown in rags. Nobody looks great. Nobody looks, you know, like their cool avatar character, which could be anything that they make up. No, it's just people getting old with their teeth falling out, drugged out, living in nothing. So Jezebel Spirit helps them make that future for us. Jezebel programming, rather. So, can you dig it? Do you get it? Alright? I mean, they want us huffing our own jank. They want to measure our dukes and then want to recycle them back to us. They do it already. I used to have a job where I drove to the sewage treatment plant to deliver waste every day, and they would recycle that waste into water that gets pumped into the cities, the city water. They take dirty water, literal sewage, and they clean it, and they take the water out of it, and then it gets taken to the city. They use it. It's gross. You take baths in it and showers in your apartment building. Pee-pee and poo-poo water. And it's not just that, it's all your pills and drugs too. So yeah, the future. Another movie, Charlton Heston's Soylent Green, the film. In the future, everybody's wearing orange prison jumpsuits. That movie is old. Where'd they get the idea of wearing orange parking cone orange jumpsuits in the future? It's all over the place, and you see it you still keep seeing it. Even in Suicide Squad, the prison suits they wore were the orange prison suits. I know, orange is the new black, all that stuff. But it's in Charlton Heston's Soylent Green. In that movie, this is what it's about. In the future, everybody lives too close together, elbow to asshole, and they just eat like soy chow that's like colored like rainbow colors, and everybody just eats that, and it's called Soylent Green. And Charlton Heston finds out that they just grind up people into the food, and you eat the people, and it's a future where people don't matter. And the point is they all wear orange prison jumpsuits, and that's like a movie from like 1967 or 72 or something like that. And now, like, there's a show called Orange is the New Black on Netflix, and people wear these orange prison jumpsuits. It's like when they get ideas, and again, it's a show for women, which is why I bring it into this. Here's how we want you to behave and think about life, women. More like a prison mindset for women. And, you know, would they have Oz for men or for everybody? I know women used to watch Oz and stuff because it's all dudes in prison. And they did. And I don't watch Oz. I didn't watch Oz or Sopranos. I'm a man without a pop culture. I don't know about any of those things, other than what I tell you about them. And it's other people telling me about the shows they watch, because that's what people would talk about. And they're getting programmed, and it's weird to talk to people, and they start telling you about their things. I'm like, yeah, I don't know that. I don't see anything. And then they don't know what to say, because they don't know how to tell you about a thing you don't know anything about. So they start telling you about TV, and it's really boring to hear, except for the stuff that I remember to bring to you, because I can see how it's having its effect on people. And people I know that have no interest in social engineering or the kind of thing, or watching my show or the stuff I talk about, will say, yeah, all the movies are the same, or the 98-pound girl has to kick everybody's butt in one punch them and it's impossible, and all the guys don't do, everybody knows. It's just like, yeah, we get it. But the young people are developing. They're growing up into this world, and this is all the new stuff that's given to them, where they know the frame rates, and there's new kinds of editing. And like, you know, when you or I, if you're old, look at Transformers and you can't make sense out of Michael Bay's Transformers, it just looks like metal, shining metal, and all noises and shit, and you don't know what you're looking at. It's not for you. That's for young people. They're being made to be able to read all that stuff really fast. Whatever else they do. There's so much stuff they're doing with technology. Netflix CEO put a lot of money into smell-o-vision, which doesn't really have to smell. It's just something that would make you like have the sensations of some certain smells in your like mind or whatever when you watch Netflix. Do you want that? It seems unnecessary. The world is full of smells. Can we just live in it? Can we have it? Well, women and men and our relationship is very important. So, you know, this whole thing with the Jezebel and what it encompasses. I mean, what is the Jezebel? Did I ever get into it the whole episode? It's just the idea of complete control at all costs, and complete narcissism, and all is about the self, and victimhood is like the main tool and weapon, and it's so all over the place online, like this idea like somebody's a victim. And what else? It's so that like, don't worry, the system will provide everything and make everything nice, and everything that isn't nice will like crush and take away, and we'll start over again and all that stuff. We'll live in new cinder block housing with plastic, and it'll be great. You get your, it'll be a tube, not communist cinder block housing. It'll be the Chinese sewage tube, and when you die, we'll just add you to the sewage and just wash away in the shit pipe, and then we'll recycle you into your food and put you in Cheetos and Nabisco products and Pepsi and stuff like that. Because one of the highest paying jobs where we live is to make the artificial flavors for things, because part of the future we have is to not have any flavors of things unless you're living in a Hunger Games district in your neo-fuel system. There's a bunch of different ways they can go. Let's see where they can push us to. Different places will have different things. I can't figure it out. I don't have to have all the answers. I'm just saying, like, they have their playbooks out there. They're easy to find. You want me to go through a bunch of names? I name them in other episodes. I was going to do it again, but I'm not going to do it. Like Quigley, Kessler, Salk, I don't know, Ayn Rand, I don't know, who else? Brzezinski, Bernays, the Huxley brothers. That's enough. I used to do it all the time. I had a puppet that was a prop. It was a copy of Brave New World from the 1960s. It said over 1 million copies sold, and it had googly eyes on it. I made a puppet out of the book Brave New World because it's like so useful. They just did a remake of Brave New World in 2020. I haven't seen it yet, but if I can find out, if I ever get to it, I will find out about that remake of Brave New World. Not remake, but the latest rendition of that movie. What's that like? What's Brave New World like in 2020? I mean, like, they've been working on making us live that for a while. It's like where we want to have the thing that destroys us and will never make us happy. In Brave New World, they have a future where everyone's pacified. Like, they try to everyone works for a factory. The planet is a factory, and we're pacified with things, but we don't get to have each other. And people that want to live like that, they live like ants outside, you know, and they live on reservations, and it's terrible out there. And if you're like John, you know, John Savage, if you're like his mother, she just wants to go back to the Brave New World where all the pretty things are, and all the lights, all the plastic, bits of plastic, and all the artificially flavored food, and life is hard living out in the world. And you live inside the smart city. The Brave New World's a smart city, and all the promises of that future, and all those places where they don't even want you to be in, like Astana or Neom or Tron City or Vaporwave City or Synthwave City or whatever nonsense it is they want to make for the Star Wars land retirement community. They just want to take "and it was good" and everything in creation and say, most people on the planet, you'll never see that shit. You'll get like fake trees that are 5G towers or 7G towers or whatever. You can drool and slobber and melt when we want you to melt, and it'll be Planet Winchester House for wherever you live. Meanwhile, the whole rest of the planet, which will be most of it, will be beautiful and thriving, and whatever it is that the wealthy elite set up for themselves in their breeding farms of like countless blonde daughters that come from like 3 different guys' seed or whatever that flourish out there. Most people will just be like molded into whatever comes out of the hatcheries. That's what you get. And if there's any kind of people, then you get to be your alpha pluses, and you can mate and have a couple, and you can stay with somebody. But whatever. That's just for the top. Everybody else, you don't get to be together. You go where we tell you. Your family doesn't matter. Oh, you brought somebody here? Don't worry, we'll take care of that. And then it's just disgusting. And all your visions of the future always want to give you some kind of dystopia, some kind of it's clean, it's not clean, it's dirty, like Blade Runner 2049, like all your genre of 1980s VHS dystopia dreck. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that Red Letter Media does, all the stuff that you watch like online from your favorite video person that watches junky retro movies. It's programming for where they want to lead you in the future. Same thing with all your science fiction. Not all science fiction, but a lot of it is to say, what will the future be like? And the guys that they herald that get the big publishing deals that they want you to know about, that are like your top guys, they always deliver the messages of, here's your future the way we want you to have it, and you're not gonna like it. And it's going to be like Looper or something, or like we have or Hunger Games, where we have technology, but you don't get to use it. You only get pieces of it or parts of it, or it's broken. Star Wars is even like this. Hey, look at all this technology, but it's all beat and used. We have to use parts from things, because only like the Empire and people in charge, like in outer space, that are so far beyond us, are in outer space. They get to have spaceships and beautiful planets and all that stuff, but you have to live in the desert and go to seedy bars and meet rough trade dudes like Han Solo and his pimp Chewie, all that stuff. Star Wars. And who are they trying to save? Princess Aldebaran, the Druish princess from Spaceballs, whatever it is. Feminism, one of your early Princess Leia. She's one of those early things like, oh, you guys don't know what you're doing. Like, that's in there. That's in the original Star Wars movie from the 70s. And, like, she doesn't wear a bra. Is that a feminist thing? She's also, like, she's pretty and everything, but she's like the kind of girl that's in your neighborhood that you would marry or something. It's not like she's like a movie star. Carrie Fisher's not like movie star pretty. She is like a girl next door type, like in your neighborhood or something, right? But, like, if you want a princess type, that's where you go to Roger Corman for Battle Beyond the Stars with Saint X-Men or something like that, right? There's different spectrums of space princesses. The Valkyrie, and then the feminist icon. I mean, now they're using Princess Leia for obey posters. I'm just kidding. Aren't they using it for something where it's like hope or strive or push or something? They have Princess Leia's face on it, and they're using her as dead Carrie Fisher as propaganda. And they put that Thunberg kid. It's like Greta Obey, like Big Brother. Yeah, I mean, it fits perfectly. That face just disapproving, looking down on you, demanding to be obliviated by God. So anyway, yeah, the terrors of feminism, telling young women how to develop. I remember hearing a while ago, and I never forgot it, that Hermione from Harry Potter, she's grown up now, and she went and said, I don't like men, I'm going to be like Emily Dickinson or Jane Foster or Jane Goodall, all these feminist writer types that just became old biddies and never married, stuff like that. There's a couple, Emily Dickinson, whoever they are. Ayn Rand, was she one of them? That just, I'm gonna be an old maid, and then there's some kind of thing about Lion King porn with her, and people are like, what? And that's paying attention, because this is like social engineering stuff to get you to get young girls to say, I don't need a boyfriend, or I don't want to think about a future. Hope chest, what a joke. They don't want to think about that. It's old fashioned. Men had a hope chest too in the past. It was tools and stuff that they would need for their life as a man, to take care of a house, to have, you know what I mean, to have these things. I don't know what the name of it, family gudanza, whatever it was called. Men had their version of a hope chest. And what a hope chest, if you don't know what that is, I mentioned it like 2 or 3 times now. A hope chest is what a little girl used to get as she was growing up, coming into womanhood. Mothers, grandmothers, family people, a sister would give her things that she would use in her, like, growing up into being a woman, to make her think about, you have a future, you'll grow up, have a family someday, maybe you want to be a mother. It's kind of very common. Most people will become a mom. That you would want to marry, have a mom, build a lifetime, and you'd put whatever it is, I don't know, man. You put whatever it is in a hope chest, and that's what little girls had, because you would hope that you would get married, and you would help your hopes and your dreams. Forget about praying stuff to the universe like people do now. You would put stuff in a hope chest and pray to God. Like, you'd be preparing. You know, there's a thing in the Bible about women getting lamp oil. Some women had lamp oil for when the Lord came, and some women didn't have some didn't have lamp oil. So it's like, you know, be prepared. I'm gonna forget about that story, but it was a story for women from the Bible. That's why I brought it up. So, you know, like, be prepared. Don't give it away. Stop whatever you did. Stop giving it away for free to men, I guess is what I'm trying to say. but there's just so much coming at women and men, putting the pressure on women, like, do this, you should do the thing. Again, there was so much propaganda for young men in the 80s with the VHS video revolution in the 80s, and titty comedies for guys to go out and try and get laid. It's like a whole genre of, like, guys that watch old, and women that watch old movies on YouTubes and stuff and different platforms, where they say, here's another one of those 1980s gotta get laid movies. I mean, like, they would just say, like, no, you gotta get laid, and the whole movie was just like some kind of quest to see boobs and find an easy gal or the hottest gal that you could get. Like, I can't believe this old lady, you know, it's like a stripper or lingerie model or something. I have to get her in the bed. And it was like a quest of a film. I know that in more recent times there's been several films that are like a woman's quest to get rid of her virginity, but there's a lot of propaganda directed at women for that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter, get it over with. Books written on this. Women will come out and say, just like, it doesn't matter, it was a terrible time. Oh, it shouldn't matter, it's just going to be a disaster no matter what. You know, don't believe other women and have already thrown it away. They're just trying to make good with the choices they've made. So they're they're trying to, like, cover it up or something. Like, well, that's what I did, so I'll make the most of it. You know, that's how it is for everybody, I guess. No, it's not. You're supposed to be bad at sex. When people get married, you're not supposed to know what you're doing. You're supposed to discover that with each other. You're not supposed to compare each other to other lovers or to live up to the ex-lovers somebody had. I know that's how it is in the West, how people are, but that's not supposed to be. Like, we messed it up, like the collective we of people or whatever. We went astray from that. You're supposed to figure all that stuff in marriage, and that's your own private world and stuff like that you do with each other. Not like you do that with everybody else and then you get good for your partner. That's just complete wrong. Wrong! And again, it's all stuff that leads to people not being able to stay together, because you're not supposed to switch bodies. That's why we're so many times advised against it, you know, in the past, historically. And when there's a fall of empires, there's always, like, encouragement of promiscuity and a breakdown of families and all kinds of other stuff that comes with it. All the different sexual immoralities and deviations away from men and women with each other, and, you know, bringing orgies and all this things, bacchanalias, all that stuff. I mean, not whatever, all the stuff you're not supposed to do. With freedom comes the potential for excess. You know, some people just want to get back to, like, can we just get back to the normalcy of our debauchery? Well, we're going into austerity mindset or whatever it is, poverty. So they want to program you with that with your devices. So now everybody stay home, get programmed, just watch stuff, and we'll tell you how you should behave and think. And don't forget about stuff like Walking Dead and all this Purge stuff that they put out there, like Purge TV series and all this stuff. It's all programming to program you how to think and how to behave. And when people review it, because everybody has a channel or a podcast or a blog or their opinions on tweets or Instagram or twits of what they think about what it was that they watched that was given to them to program them, and everybody says the same things. It's the same messages. They're pervasive. They stink. Why, like people don't like it, but it doesn't matter. They're getting hammered with it. And then people that love it say, I love it. It's all the best stuff. And they're the people that are like destroying themselves and the lives of everybody else. And it's a lot of people like this, using, manipulating each other, eating each other alive, turning on one another. All these things are useful. There's so much you could do when you're trying to enculturate people globally, because you're trying to make this global culture thing instead of the differences of from land to land, how people had their ways to live and all that kind of thing. Now we want everybody on the same page. Microsoft wants everybody to get a Microsoft education. One education globally, and we'll figure out about the differences in languages and stuff. They have plans for all this stuff. It'll be great. We'll all be together. Together doing what? For whom? Like, if you get those old playbooks they have, it's like kind of dirty plan. Like, they make promises, but like what you want will, I mean, we live in a world now where they have nets on the building so people can't throw their bodies out to kill themselves because they don't want to make whatever it is that they make in the factories they work for, so people can have cheap goods or something. It's weird, So, I mean, the phone has done so much damage. Like, look at what it does to somebody's brain when you can just swipe people, and then if you want to, you can meet them and then just immediately have a physical relationship. Did you ever do that with somebody? I mean, it's not something proud, but I've had where I met somebody and I don't know them, like, wow, I guess we're gonna have sex now. You're not supposed to be doing that. That's why it feels weird, I mean, people want, obviously, everything's functioning, otherwise you couldn't do it. But I don't know if you're supposed to be doing it. That's why we were told to be like, well, save it for when you get married, and then when you discover all that stuff, you're gonna go crazy because there's chemicals that are released for bonding, and there's a cellular information exchange because, like, contraception is kind of an invention. So when people were married and they got together and they waited to do sex stuff and all that, their sanctioned carnality, all right, they were building something, and continued cellular information exchange through bonding. You're not supposed to be exchanging cells with like every different kind of man or woman in the village and all your neighbors and stuff. It makes crazy. It's what makes people crazy. You're supposed to pick somebody and bond for life so you can be a representative example of all the stages of life for whoever you bring here, if you bring anybody here. And some people don't bring people here, but they still want to be a good example of a man or a woman or what that's like, because maybe you'll inherit, maybe somebody dies and you're going to take care of somebody's kid or whatever it is, or you don't know, your aunt or an uncle or something. You still need to be a good example. So everybody has this responsibility by living here. That's a responsibility to like the collective, but not this responsibility like we're all just one gray mass and none of us matter, so just do whatever an authority tells us to do because they create the dialectics that we're going to behave under, and we're just going to, like, they're going to make us want these terrible things. Well, that's what they've done. Like, they program people to willfully fight against each other on all these different social media platforms to the point of censorship. I mean, how all social media got censored was by, like, kind of Jezebel Spirit possessing people, saying, well, if you don't agree with these valueless values that don't make sense, that don't add up, that lead to a dead end, then you won't have a platform anymore because you're talking about stuff that's just old-fashioned and doesn't matter anymore. Like, you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, and nobody, you know what I mean? Like, it's just completely hook, line, and sinker, have bitten down to, swallowed, and are ready to shit out the hook. It's never, what's that guy, Yuri Beltsanov or whatever, that Russian guy, and he's like, it's a famous, like, interview a lot of people have seen where he's like, oh, here's how we program people and you won't be able to stop them. I mean, a friend told me this years ago. He said, oh, you don't have no idea what's going to happen, because I didn't back then. And he said the people that call themselves the liberals are going to go crazy, and the conservatives are going to seem like the only people that are rational, make sense. And they both kind of have the same agendas, but there's just different means, sort of different paths to the same end, and it's all just like, well, I mean, it wasn't said to me like this, but I'll say it like this. Just Rome wanting to take census over everybody because they had, like, the big empire, you know, at the time. The biggest. They were the world because they had the big empire. So now it's different. Now you have a bunch of people all over the world, and they're like, yeah, let's just, like, see if we can just like do the whole planet. Let's like round everybody up and we'll just get rid of everything we don't want. And we'll just mold and shape people however we want. And you guys can fuck with them and mess with them, because it's like one of our stages. It's a phase where we just like experiment with people like we were never able to before. And it's sick. And they even made Netflix specials that are made by Netflix themselves. I mean, like the Russians said they don't have Netflix. They asked Yeltsin, not Yeltsin. What's his name? What's his name? Russia. The guy. What the heck? What is his name? Why can I not think of it? Putin. Putin. He's like, we don't have Netflix. He's like, no, that's like a Western CIA programming. We don't want our people watching what they're getting programmed with. Of course, we don't have Netflix. We don't want those movies over there. They have to bootleg them if they want. He didn't say that, but he did say like, yeah, we don't have Netflix because it's programming. We don't have that. Like, we don't want that for people. He just openly said it because he doesn't care. You know, like he's like, no, say that because it's not going to stop them, because it's done. Because it's like the damage is done. People are fighting and screaming to destroy their neighborhoods and their supply lines and distribution and the getting along and the good times and everything they had. And thinking, because they're godless heathens and they want some kind of meaning in their life, and all they've been given is New Age nonsense that says just pray openly out to anything you can think of. It's idolatry. It's all old techniques that were used in biblical times that are in the Bible, that were like social engineering tools at the time to control the populace. Get everybody to worship false idols because they're not real and they don't amount to anything, and they're easily crushable whenever you want to plow them over and let them have as many as they want. And nowadays the false idols are like pop culture, cultural stuff, and all your collectibles and collecting figures and statues of things from franchises and buying the merch and memorabilia and wearing the t-shirt. These are the icons of things that don't matter. You know, and lots of people are merchants of them, and you know, and they're shaping and molding our sensibilities into slobs that aren't worth it, you know. I mean, we are worth it, but you'll never get to where you want to be in life if you can't own your own stuff. And what I see is being enculturated is they're not wanting, nor are they allowing for you know, like anybody to ever, I don't know what else to say besides repent. Like, they don't want you to ever think about that maybe you're the problem, that maybe you messed up. I mean, they can make you feel bad about yourself as long as you become ineffective and like you're no good and you're bad and you just be a beta male and do whatever we tell you how to behave, and that's one kind of thing. But I mean, like, if you want your life to get better, you have to like take responsibility for like some things you were wronged for, but that's not an excuse for you to be a victim forever because somebody wronged you. That's why, again, there's this thing called turn the other cheek, where if somebody wrongs you, okay, that was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. They'll suffer for it eventually, because the more shit like you do like that, it catches up with you. If you've ever done stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, it's wrong, and it catches up with you, well, then you know that. So you should be able to be more sympathetic when you know why somebody else does a bad thing. You know why they did it, or maybe what their motive might have been, because you know why it is you did the shitty things you did. But if you don't get to the point in your own life where you know what the shitty things you did are, as a man or a woman, or a young developing man or woman, then you just try to pass the blame on somebody else, and your life just isn't going to work out. You're just going to always be brought back to problems of not resolving that, because you're trying to pass the blame for stuff that is, you have to resolve these things. You have to like put it behind, like turn the other cheek. Somebody wrongs you, move on. Don't let them do it again. Don't do this, you know what I mean? Like, you know, protect yourself, prepare. Don't go down to dark alleys with iniquitous people, all that kind of stuff. Don't go into bad dealings with somebody who ripped you off again. Say, no, I can't do that because we did that before, and this is what you did to me. I can't give you any money because you said you needed it for this, and you bought drugs or booze or whatever it was. That we can't, you know, like where you turn the other cheek. You screwed me over in business, so we can't do business anymore. Whatever it is. Okay, fine. Where am I going with this? You got to take responsibility for your own mistakes and actions, but what's happened is we're encouraged and enculturated, I dare say, to always blame somebody else. Like, always, always, always. Even when you get an apology these days, it's always like, well, I'm sorry I did that, and then always a but, and then the but is this. But if somebody hadn't done this, they just want to explain to you why they did this shitty thing. I get it. I've done shitty things, and I've done this, so I know. But I also know it's better to just apologize and know that you did wrong, and not explain by bringing somebody else into it or how you were wrong. Sometimes it's pertinent. Oh, I did you a misdeed. I thought you did this to me, so I did something I shouldn't have done. But the only reason I did it is because I thought you did this to me and somebody else did it. I'm not going to go through every kind of scenario of how a person can be wrong. It's not possible. I'm just trying to give you some kind of, to paint for you in some way, you know, if I haven't done it enough already, that you take responsibility for stuff that happened. And when somebody wrongs you, you kind of have to turn the other cheek and walk away, because people don't do that, and they hold on to it, and they use it to hold themselves back in life as an excuse to not accomplish stuff, or as an excuse to victimize other people by saying, this was done to me, that's why I'm like that now, sorry. Or just by saying, I guess that's how the world is. Somebody does this to me, I guess I get to do that to other people. Or if they get caught on it and it costs them something. I mean, people become so iniquitous. It's like, I can't go into all the mental gymnastics that people go through. But you get some idea of what I'm saying. Like, people just jump through so many hoops to try and pass the blame and not take responsibility for just fucking up. If you could just admit you fucked up, or somebody screwed you over, that you were the smaller, that you lost, that somebody took advantage of you. And like, a lot of times people get taken advantage of or hurt, and they try and turn it into something that is like a benefit, or that they learn something from, but they don't get the lesson the right way. They just use it as a tool to, you know, like an excuse for victimhood, or an excuse to victimize others because, you know, that was done to them. And then if they get caught for it, then they sort of half repent or half apologize for it by saying, I'm sorry that I did that to you, but it was done to me, so I guess that's why I did it. And so, you know, and it's like, no, like, I've had bad stuff done to me. That doesn't mean that I go out and you know, like, I've had horrible stuff done to me. That doesn't mean, like, oh, I guess I have to do that to somebody now. And it wasn't my solution to problems when I was confronted. And I'm not special or especially strong-willed or anything like that. I'm just anybody. I think a lot of people are like this. Just because something's done to them doesn't mean that you're gonna do it to somebody else. But some people do pick that, and it seems like a lot of people these days are making terrible choices. And what makes it worse is that we're encouraged to do so by all of our movies and TV show, and even the music. It's all made for us, more than ever, by like group thinking that says, what does this group agree on how we should do this? And then it's all managed and engineered out to the point where it leads to those ends of everybody being their own isolated unit, because then it's like a better consumer, even though we don't really need consumerism like we used to. It's different stages, and globalization and consumerism is different now. Like, we just want you to consume thoughts and ideas, and we don't need to give you much in return. We just want you to take it in mentally and then live with not much. Alone, if people would get together, they could never do what they're doing to us now. So that's why what's being done to us, you know, like globally through our media, I just say it like that, all of it, what's being done to us by those who manage and massage our media, is to make sure that we never again get together as people to say we would not want to live like this, where we're being headed. So they're making us go there, but they also want us to go along with it, because it's kind of part of how way it works. I don't know how to explain that part, but they kind of get it. They kind of, like, they'll do stuff to us. These are, you know, social engineers, a wealthy elite whose fortunes control the fates of nations, governments. This is like a global power grab type of thing, and they want to, I don't know, this is too big. This is supposed to be about Jezebel Spirit, and I just got talking to something that's just out of my depth. But, you know, that's where we live. It's just like, here's what we're going to do to people. And if you watch enough movies and TV like everybody has, you'll start to see the patterns over and over again, and how movies used to be for as long as you can see old movies, and before they, you know, they try to change it and erase it and say, you can't watch that anymore, that's like bad. You will see, like, here's how things used to be and how we used to think and what our sensibilities were, and you can see through like 1980s VHS revolution into the 90s with DVDs and all that stuff, you can see how we're being molded and shaped, and how women are being like, the girl's a tomboy and she knows martial arts and she also knows to fix cars and she knows about weapons. And there's so many movies in the 80s where surprise, the girl is like a man, and that's supposed to be like the girl that's surprised of the movie. That's what the guys are supposed to want, and what the girl, it's the only woman that they have in the movie, so it's supposed to be like her. And, you know, ultimately it leads to, you know, whatever kind of nonsense you have now with like women imitating all the worst behaviors of men and saying, well, that's how a woman is. Everything a man's supposed to not be. So I'm talked out. But I haven't done one like this in a while. I don't know how many of these I have in me. I don't know why I do these anymore. For you, to watch them, I guess. But I am championing love, so maybe it's out of obligation that I have to let you know that they don't want men and women to be together, and that they is the wealthy elite whose fortunes control the fates of nations, and what's done at their behest to sort of, through different groups of those people, get us all to the same end where everyone's managed, and somehow it gets rid of God and erases roles of men and women, so that we're just going to be shaped into whatever they want until they can figure out the technology to make babies be born in hatcheries without wombs or parents or whatever. Do they have that already? They're telling us they grew a goat inside of a plastic bag. You see it propagandized in, like, they're cloning people in plastic bags, and it's in like heavy carbon or something. I can't keep track of all these shows and stuff, but I've seen it like in several different things where there's like, here, oh, Blade Runner 2049, people come out of bags and they cut the bag open and everything. Stupid. Artificial wombs. It's everything to take creation, and it was good, and just to replace it or alter it with their version of things. Natalie Portman film Annihilation, where it has all those women in it. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh's in it too, and famous women, I guess, I don't remember. But the whole thing is like, let's take the whole planet, and it all must be tampered with. We must put our like designer DNA imprint on everything. So what do? Well, we got to get at those wombs. We got to get at people. We got to change the way women think about themselves, about having babies, about men, about each other. That'll also change the way men think about women. Let's do that. Let's let's reduce love and carnality to porn and just make it free and available to anyone everywhere, and just have like, hours of compilations of it, just faces, just like a woman opening their mouth to receive seed. Why does it go there? What does that have to do with being married? What does that have to do with building a life with somebody? Why is that the end of like so many things on that channel? Careers of somebody rapidly aging, receiving facials. It's really gross. You know what I mean? Like, we live here now. Like, that's the world we live in now. Like, don't you want to live in a world where just like nobody wants to do that anymore? Can't it be a matter of like global taste? Does it have to be a matter of like, just destroying men and women? Like, it's such a disgusting plans they have. Like, we have everything now to take care of everybody. The technology we have could be used to say, here's a man, here's a woman, here's how we could be differently. Let's find our way back to ourselves, our original operating systems. And instead, it's all used to deconstruct everything. Like all your movies, like, oh, we love superhero movies. They're all deconstruction. It's all postmodern deconstruction of everything. All your art that's in MoMA is postmodern deconstruction of art. All your things that you watch in movies and TV shows are postmodern deconstructions of values and viewpoints and heroes of virtues. Oh, this is the new everything, but everything's the same. We need the same old basic stuff because those are the building blocks that build us into stuff. Stories matter. We like stories about things, but they should matter to us. The stories that are being made are making us not matter. We don't matter. Just watch all the stuff that's happening, that's thrown around in your random universe where anything can happen, and everything leads to something. It's just magic. Dirk Gently, it's predicated, it's Douglas Adams. But in my opinion, this show seems to be predicated on magical thinking, where it's like, let's see how one thing leads to the next. It's like Grant Morrison chaos magic nonsense bullshit that's propagandized to young people through comic books, which are now like over. So whatever comic books are now are probably like, it's all about the X-Men killing old people or something. Whatever it is. But anyway, enough. I can't do this anymore. Jezebel to ruin women and to get men to not care about them and to think that they're all no good and stuff. And we're made for each other. It's like the most basic stuff. And, you know, it's not working everywhere in the world, but, you know, it's being propagandized rather, to everyone. And so, you know, there's a bunch of stuff. Not contradictions, just all different things that are cultured in a cultural petri dish that try to lead to the same end. So yeah, like, watch your Plandopolis Megacities videos about futures and stuff. They still have couples, people together and stuff like that, but that's, they all want it under, like, it all has to be under their jurisdiction, sanctioned, not under, you know, God or Jesus by marriage and two people going out into the world trying to make something go. No, like, we want to know what you're doing, what your food weighs that you ate, and, like, you know, it's just dumb if you have that. And if you don't, they don't care what you're doing. It's just like you're out in the wastelands or whatever. I don't know. So there's a lot of different stuff. The world's a big place. I don't have it all figured out, but I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff that people want to do. Go watch more well-informed channels if you want something else. This is what I have to offer you about Jezebel Spirit, and apparently Dirk Gently and Scott Pilgrim, and what's this one? Not that one. Jezebel. All your stuff that's the same, why nobody likes it anymore, it's because it's against the most basic drives of men and women, so that's why you don't like the characters. The men aren't behaving the way they should, the women aren't behaving the way that they should or could, and you don't get any characters, you get the same character. Men and women don't need each other, and men are superfluous, and women should just be in charge of stuff, but really they're not needed either, and don't have kids. But take care of orphans, and everybody can just be a family made out of people from other places, but don't actually be a family. Just be like a family of orphans. That's like everything, like Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, in this show, these are like Charlie Brown adults, like they don't have parents, like this is all, you know, I mean, over and over again, we'll be a family made out of refugees from other horrible lives where we just find each other to survive or whatever. They put us together because we work together and cohabitate in this living space. It's all just that NWO programming stuff, like over and over and over again. So anyway, yeah, Jezebel Spirit. This episode's too long. Should anybody ever see this one? Or should they definitely see this one? But you got to take a look at your life. And like, I talked a lot about, I think, about like passing the blame and victimhood. But I mean, it is also the mindset of like this just women stuff, like going out doing dude shit and like getting dick and stuff. It just doesn't work that way for women, because like you really have to like you have to program yourself like to go for that and just go against your most basic human drives. They're not wrong. It's not wrong when a pair up with somebody, have a family and have a man and a home and everything. Like, it's for anyone anywhere on the planet. It's what people in poverty wish they could have, and we could give that to everybody, and there'd still be enough for everybody, and we'd be well fed, and we wouldn't have to eat junk. But that's not what they're building. It's gross. It's not, I don't know, I have to end this episode. So I thank you for hanging out with me. I think women are great. I think men are great. We're made for each other. We've been programmed by movies and TV shows and music. That's pretty much it. What we watch has told us how to think, and it took for too many generations, and now we're all a bunch of movies and TV and internet, cell phone, social media heads. Or you're left out of the loop and you're left behind and you don't know what's going on, and you're just gonna go along with it. You're gonna be caught up in the wave of it all. But maybe your life matters to you. I still think in your own tiny small life, I think a little bit of your stinky little will could be used to maybe straighten your shit out and say, yeah, I'm tired of living like this. I don't like the junk they're giving me. I think men and women were made together. What does it look like to live that? I think you could find somebody probably if you're looking, if that mattered to you. Because I think the more weird things get, it also pushes people the opposite way, where like, yeah, like people max out on porn. They do it. Like, I've seen so much, I get it. It just becomes like seals. It's the circus time for the seals. Everything, you know what I mean? Like, men and women both that have problems with pornography and sex, they outgrow it because like we're being inundated and assaulted with so much. I think people will wise up. But something that's important that a lot of people don't have is that's why I said the personal responsibility thing, like this victimhood. Like they know what's wrong, but they still want to somehow say, I'm sorry and I know it's wrong, and blame somebody else that hurt them. You could take, like, what do you want to do? Take the chain of victimhood back to Adam and Eve or something? Like, where are we, you know what I mean? Like, just let it, that's where, turn the other cheek, let it go. Move on with your life and build something good. If your life is working out for you and things are going good, you're not thinking, like when your life's terrible, all right? When your life is no good, that's when you're thinking about how the people that wronged you and like they did this to me and now my life sucks. When things are going good, you're not thinking about that. You're busy with your life that you're living. But right now, a lot of people aren't getting to do stuff and they're going to make that worse. So it just encourages even more of the flaring up of like hemorrhoids, like really bad ones, blood and and I don't know what hemorrhoids are like, but you know what I mean, blood and shit and all that stuff, to make you feel like a victim and just stay home, be isolated and blame people. And they're taking away this and that's not this and these people did this to me and I can't have the things I want and I'll never get them and whatever. So maybe you can. And just because all these plans that I've talked about this whole episode have been laid for so long before you or I were born, and the people that are richest money in the world have all the means to make them happen, they have to make them happen, and they failed a lot. And there's been so many things, because we have history of man, where like, yes, people are in charge. It's different now with with the tools, the technology we have now. It's different to manipulate people like never before, because they can just watch and feel and think from what they see, because we know that affects us. That's why we watch things. That's why this has such power, this stupid little phone thing. And they know that. But it doesn't mean that their plans have to work, because weirdly they always have to get us to go along with it by whatever it is they do to us. I know some places just like, what about the devastation where they plowed through and massacred people? Yes, sure. But this is different. Like, this is like a thing where they're trying to get to everybody to change the way men and women think about themselves and each other. And they want us all to think the same way about it. And it's not going to work, because it's the thing that's against our most basic drives. So even though it seems like there isn't resistance, where is the most resistance? You just cannot pacify people enough by giving them stuff to take away the basic things they want for life. And that is other people, and like a safe space and a home and fresh air and clean water and good food and good company. And a lot of people, because it's kind of like we have a planet to steward, we always have to bring in new people here to steward stuff. So how good were you, how good were you to the people you had to take care of now that you're old? If you're for old people, or when you get old, what kind of person were you? Who's going to take care of you? Is it going to be your family and loved ones, or is it just going to be like a system and strangers and like all the nursing home stories we've heard where we don't have technology like we will soon, but do you really just want to die alone somewhere by bots? So you don't have to worry about people beating you in your nursing home or whatever. That's where the drugs come in. They want people to be drugged up all the time. Look at all the weird stuff with laws. I gotta get out of here. But anyway, they're coming at us from so many ways for one thing, to keep men and women apart. And this whole Jezebel thing, get women to be Jezebels, encouraging this type of behavior, Broad City, women being slobs, Sarah Silverman, this is American culture. But I'm trying to think of like female models, like role models for women globally that are all bad examples. Whatever they are. It's being enculturated out of your pop culture. Where's the love stories? Where's the romances? Where's the things about people getting married? And it's all being taken away, and we're being encouraged that these things don't matter, and yet they do. They're the most important things. It's like it's our development is being messed with. And then we grow up and we're like, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to build a lifetime. We're not told anything about what that looks like. We're just told have fun and we'll get to it. Now it's probably just being saying, oh, well, nobody should have that anymore. It's austerity mindset, and start dialing that back and whatever. It depends. There's a lot of... I just want to stop talking about this now. Jezebel Spirit.